Hey, everybody. Another day, another White House coronavirus press briefing. I'm considering changing how I cover these a little bit, and I'm going to have a poll for you guys in a moment about that once a few more people connect to the stream. It's April 1st, day one of 30 April days of staying home. We don't know whether this is the beginning, the middle, the end. We just don't know yet. And we're all in this together. We are all relegated to having to bake. I will be baking later today, and maybe later people can give me advice on I have two overripe bananas, so I think we already know the direction things are going, but there's a lot of options. I've got slivered almonds, I've got raisins, I have cocoa powder, so there's a lot that could be done, and I will ask you for your advice a little bit later. Let's get to the latest numbers as we wait for this press briefing scheduled for the top of the hour. And, it might start at 5:05. It might start at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time. We just don't know at this point in time. The official numbers, let me refresh. The official numbers right now, 927,000 cases. We will likely reach 1 million official cases worldwide either later today or tomorrow. The death toll is very rapidly approaching 50,000, 50,000, 50. We have the United States. We really are number one. Every day, more new cases in the U.S., already 22,000 new cases today. It's possible we could reach 30,000 new cases today. Another brutal day with 660 people dead. Let's look a little more in detail at the numbers in the United States. Let me refresh. We just picked up 1,000 cases. I want to make sure you have the latest numbers. 211,000 official cases in the United States, approaching 5,000 deaths. Of course, right now, let's pull out the calculator just because we have the time. So right now, New York as well as New Jersey represent, that's got to be about half. 50% of the cases right now are in two states, New York or New Jersey. But it's really important to understand that New York is just early. New York is expected to peak sooner because they got their first cases earlier. And so you've got a place like Florida, which already has 7,000 cases. Ron DeSantis only today said it's time for a 30-day stay at home. It doesn't start until Friday at midnight. So expect that places like Florida are just going to explode because remember, cases are essentially 7 to 14 days delayed. If you don't go in until about 5 days into your symptoms and get a test, the test can take up to 8 days. When a case shows up officially, that could be a case that started 2 weeks ago. So the Florida numbers are absolutely going to be exploding. Meanwhile, Italy, the death numbers in Italy are still tragic, but the case numbers appear to have turned the corner. They appear to have turned the corner. And what's really important to understand about these numbers, again, is that when we say that we've peaked, that's not a one-day event. The peak often lasts 10, 12, or 14 days. And as you can see, it's now been 12, 13. We're on like day 13 sort of Italy's peak, or maybe we could say we are a couple days now into the descent. That gets us to the latest estimates. This is the best model we currently have. This is the IHME model. Increasingly, Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci are looking at this model. This is Dr. Christopher Murray's model. We're trying to get him on the program. Every day, data from the previous day is added to the model. So for example, yesterday, this model said that the peak would be April 15. Yesterday was not a good day. This has adjusted the model. The peak is now expected to be April 16th. Now, importantly, when we say the peak will be on the 16th with 2,607 deaths in the United States, that is just a one possible outcome. And there's a range of likely outcomes. So when we say the peak will be 2,600 people die on the 16th, could be as few as 1,294, as many as 4,140. But very importantly, the deaths per day are expected to be over 2,000, starting on April 8th, lasting all the way until April 28th. That's a 20-day peak. Like the difference between 2,607 and 2,600 deaths, can we really say that the 16th is the peak? No, we're going to have about a 20-day period that is going to be the peak, and it's going to be very, very ugly. Yesterday, the projected death toll for this first wave, remember, we're expecting 3 waves. This one, fall, and then spring 2021. Yesterday, the death toll was expected to be 83,000. Overnight, because yesterday, again, was a bad day, that has gone up by 10,000. The estimated death toll now for this wave one is 93,765. The other thing to note is that this range has drastically expanded. Whereas yesterday, the range was 40 to 140,000. It is now expanded to be anywhere from 40 to 177,000. That's the confidence interval. So these are not good numbers, and we're following it daily. And meanwhile, the grift continues. Here is Kenneth Copeland with a hype man talking about as long as you send him 10% of your income, right? That's the whole thing. You got to keep tithing. This guy, I guess, can pray away the coronavirus. People fall for this. Elderly folks, gullible folks, Christian folks, I don't know.
In the name of Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Standing in the office of the prophet of God.
Right.
I execute judgment on you, COVID-19.
Oh, Ramash.
I execute judgment on you, Satan. You destroyer, you killer. You get out. We break your power. You get off this nation.
Right. So imagine seeing this and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep going to get haircuts. I'm going to keep going, to the mall, but I'm going to send this guy cash and I'll be fine.
Demand judgment on you. I demand a vaccination to come immediately.
Yes.
Now, instead of God making coronavirus and then the vaccine, why not just skip the entire thing? And this guy right here may be the worst hype man that anyone has ever had, right?
I call you done.
Right.
I call you
Dongon.
You come down from your place of authority, destroyer. You come down and you crawl.
So as you can tell, this is very similar to what you hear, that guy on the subway yelling, right? It's just this guy's wearing a suit. He has better makeup and lighting. That's really the difference. Now, admittedly, this guy probably knows this stuff is BS, whereas the guy on the subway actually needs, to be in a psych ward. Although if you're willing to lie, if he knows he's lying, it almost is more insidious in a way. I'd rather this guy merely be crazy rather than be lying and knowing that he is, taking advantage of people who send him money. It's really ugly. It's very, very ugly. Okay, welcome if you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. All acceptable and delightful platforms, and I'm glad to be welcoming all of you guys. Let me say a couple of quick thank yous before we move on. I do want to thank Lucas Norlund, who is new member number 1 today at joinpacman.com, my website. Also want to say thanks to Chris LaMontagne, who is new member number 2. So let me speak truth to power for a moment, if you will allow me to. I know that, everybody is always supposed to pretend everything is just great when you do an independent show because you want to keep the hype going and, it's all, there's a lot of theater of the mind that goes on. We just got our final March numbers because it is now April. 389 members canceled their memberships on our website in March. That's by far the most members we've ever lost in a month. And I get what's going on. I mean, people, unemployment could spike to 25%. People are laid off. I get it. Okay. But I want to be transparent that March was very ugly. Losing for us 389 members is a lot. And people are tightening the belt. I don't blame anybody. People write to me, they say, David, I'm sorry, but this is what's going on, So what I'm asking is, I don't want your last $2, but if you are in a position to be able to support the work we do by getting a membership on my website, consider yourself invited. And with that coupon code up there, 2020 now, a monthly membership is only $2 a month. A yearly membership is only $20, which makes it like $1.80 a month. I suggest paying yearly, just get it out of the way. It gets us, the revenue right away, and then you save another 16% or so. So consider yourself invited. 389 that's a big number. We've never had that many people cancel in a single month. So I invite you to sign up at joinpacman.com. We have a modest goal of 25 members today. Okay, let me answer some super chat questions that are coming in. Donna Williams says, what do you say to Trump's cult members who defend by saying he stopped flights from China? Okay, yeah, I mean, sure, but he failed to do a whole bunch of other stuff. So, all right. I mean, but by the time Trump stopped China flights, the nexus was actually Europe. So, take that for what it is. Quincy Vigeli, or no, Vigel says, Pack, we love your hair. It gives us elements of hope. Thank you. Let's see here. Aquatic Llamas has signed up at the beta level. Emmett says, love the show, David. Christy says, every day I tell myself there is fresh hope that these briefings will improve. Then I realize Trump will blather on and there is really no hope at all. Okay, so let me ask you, this is the question I have for you. I want you to go right now and vote at davidpakman.com/vote. Because these press briefings happen in 3 discrete sections. Trump shows up and lies and self-congratulates. That's section 1. Then doctors get to talk. Experts get to talk. That's section 2. And then Trump takes questions from reporters. That's section 3. Do you want me to skip section 1 where Trump propagandizes? Okay. That is one option. We'll have Trump up here. We'll mute it. I'll keep talking to you guys. And we can, when we see that the doctors start talking, we go to that. So if you go to davidpakman.com/vote, it'll take you to this poll. How should I handle Trump coronavirus press conference? If you want me to carry the entire thing, let me know. If you want me to skip the propaganda intro from Trump and just do doctors and questions, let me know. If you want me to do only doctors and skip questions, let me know. And then if you want only questions, you can also let me know. Let's look at oh my goodness, only 4 people have voted so far. Oh, I think people are saying that my website may be getting crushed again. Oh no. I think a bunch of people are trying to sign up and the website may be getting crushed. I just reset the website, guys. I'm sorry. Let me paste the straw poll link. I'll paste this. I'll do this in Twitch and then I'll do it in YouTube. I'm unable to do it easily in Twitter or Facebook right now. And then the website should be coming back up very, very soon. I just rebooted it and I apologize about that. I think I made the mistake of suggesting people grab memberships and suggesting people use that redirect, davidpakman.com/vote. And the website is just getting brutalized right now. It can take 2 minutes for it to reset. So let's just give it a second. And then we should be back up and running momentarily. But I did just paste the link to this straw poll in the chat. And let's see. Okay. Oh, people are overwhelmingly saying carry the entire thing. Okay. All right. Then I will do that. I'm surprised by these numbers from people writing to me. I thought more people would want the propaganda piece skipped, but about 80% say carry the entire thing. All right, so we will do that, but people can continue voting. Let's see. Yeah, it seems pretty overwhelming. Okay, well, so then we'll do it. I'm going to do what the audience wants is what the audience gets. That's always been the case. About 84% say carry the entire thing. So we will do it. We will do it then, and I will just do my best to fact check and keep up. The one thing about skipping the propaganda part is that the announcements on policy do seem to happen during that time. Like when Trump says we're extending for 30 days or whatever, if we skipped the Trump piece, we would miss that. And that wouldn't be, that would not be a good thing at all. Okay, let's see. I'm doing my best to get the David Pakman Show website to come back up. It's under very, very heavy load right now. A lot of people trying to sign up and we've upgraded our hosting twice already. And in fact, if you'll allow me, I'm just going to send a quick email to our webmaster saying, hey guys, unfortunately, the website instantly crashed again today when I went live and mentioned signing up for membership. What is our next step here in troubleshooting? Definitely want it to stay up throughout. Thanks, guys. Very good. That's my very polite email to our team to see what we can do. It's like we've upgraded our hosting twice already. And, I don't know how much more we can do. It's a difficult situation. Very, very difficult situation. Okay, while we wait for that, other super chats coming in. Quincy Vigel has grabbed a YouTube membership. Charlie with $100 super chat says, Everyone is like, oh, wow, David's coverage is so great. And David is helping us get through this. You know what? They're 100% right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No, thank you, Charlie. I really appreciate, really appreciate your support. Donna Williams says, did you hear about Pence mistakenly sending a plane full of medical supplies to Japan? No, but what I did tweet about is an article that explains that a Trump official called Thailand and said to Thai officials, hey guys, we need masks and PPE. And the Thai official said, hold on a second, you're sending us a plane load of masks and PPE right now. Like at the same time that one Trump official was asking Thailand for stuff, a different Trump official had sent Thailand the same stuff. And it's a comedy of errors, but it's one of those comedies that is actually a tragedy because people are dying as a result of the incompetence. It's absolutely stunning. And, I don't know how much longer this is going to go on, but apparently a while. Do we have any stream that has the live room so we can see what's going on? Let me see here. Sometimes Washington Post has it. Washington Post Coronavirus Live. Not finding it right now. Okay. Well, we'll have to see about that. It looks like the David Pakman Show website is coming back up for a few people. So, for example, like Brian Huff was able to sign up at joinpakman.com. And Petra Ronholm was able to sign up. They are members number 3 and 4. The website is struggling, but it seems that it is intermittently coming back up for people. Okay. Waller is me says, I am sad but not surprised Trump's gaslighting apparently continues to be effective. It is a superpower of his, an idiot savant type ability. It's shocking to me too. And, I've been heavily desensitized to it. And still, it is stunning to me the ease with which Donald Trump is able to just gaslight his followers into believing any old dumb thing that he says. It's disturbing and stunning. Adam Waddington says Trump really needs to stay at home and allow the smart people to answer questions. I sometimes wonder if anyone coaches him before these air. I would rather not hear from Trump at all. Like, I would just want to hear from doctors and experts. Zero the Liger says, I'm sending 10% to say this ain't Satan's fault. All right. Let me see here. Matt Chavez says, what policies are they passing while we are distracted? Many, and we've been talking about them on the broadcast show, and we've been posting those clips to our YouTube channel and to our podcast. By the way, if people may not know, but we do a daily hour-long podcast, and it's an audio podcast. You can get it on iTunes, Stitcher, our website, all of those places, and it's a great way to kind of get it's like an hour summary of the day's news, and I encourage people to grab that, sign up for that. Love Inspired says, where's my tambourine when I need it? Jacob Ratner says, I'm a Zoomer who can't remember 9/11. How would you compare that situation to the one we face now? Interestingly, 9/11 and what we're experiencing now have a similar feel. The difference is that 9/11, it was much shorter and it was much more localized. The FAA ground stop of all planes affected the whole country, but most of the country reopened very quickly. So this has a feeling like 9/11 in a way, but it is lasting much, much longer, very clearly. Okay, let me say thank you to oh no, nobody else. The website still seems to be struggling to come back up. Usually after like 10 minutes, the cloud hosting will adjust resources. We've got to do something about this website hosting, because it's happening every time I stream that people are trying to get memberships and the website is just unable to handle the traffic. So maybe avoid hitting refresh too many times right now, because I think that's part of what may be causing the problem at joinpakman.com. And hopefully within a few minutes, the website will be back up. Let me say a few Twitch thank yous. I want to say thanks to Pensive for subscribing with Prime. Quiggins Prodigy has subscribed with Prime. Gosgood has subscribed with Prime. Jubba Gump has cheered 100 bits. And Triple Z Kuma has also subscribed with Prime. Thank you very much. Thomas W. says, pack it up, pack it in. Let the neo-fascist propaganda begin. Shortly, my friends. Bjorn Eric Knutson sends a smiley emoticon. Thank you. Anita Morgan has grabbed a YouTube membership. Opera Man 1000 says, let the fool speak. Dominic Richardson says, do you like the Democratic Party? You know, I'm an independent and I vote for candidates, not parties. So I don't have any particular allegiance to the Democratic Party itself. Riley Potter has sent a $5 super chat. Per Tiran says, have you seen the mad televangelist that says Semitic people with a specific religion are spreading the disease due to God's punishment? Idiots make me lose faith in humans. Couldn't with clearly due to blocking? I have not seen someone blame the Jews, if that's the question, I haven't seen a televangelist blame the Jews. I've seen white nationalists blame the Jews for coronavirus, but I've not yet seen the televangelist do it. Aurea Poj says, keep going, David, fair and balanced. Keep it real, Cam says, just watched a YouTuber who has cut her lupus medication in half because doctors are writing so many prescriptions. I assume you mean chloroquine. Yeah, that's an issue. And I mentioned that yesterday on the program, and that is a major, major problem. Let's see here. Okay, standing by for what was going to be a 5 p.m. press conference. They typically start late. We never know how late until they start, but we are standing by. Slurk says, you forgot to mention the fourth part of these press conferences where Pence fawns and says the president, the president, the president. You're right. There really are 4 parts. Trump lies, doctors speak, questions, and then Pence just brown-nosing Donald Trump. Dan Stupka, where did that go? Dan Stupka says, stream it all, keep interrupting propaganda with facts. Yeah, that seems to be what people wanted. I mentioned a poll a few minutes ago. 85% of the audience says don't cut out the part where Donald Trump tells lies. So I won't. We will indeed leave that in. Let's see here. Okay, we have, all right, my web development person says it's time to upgrade hosting right away. I'm going to say, let's do it, but I am skeptical that alone will solve the issue, but let's try. Okay, I have been notified that the website is now back up. Okay, so I mentioned a few minutes ago, March was a brutal, brutal month for us. 389 people canceled memberships because of what's going on, and I get it. Everyone's tightening the belt. We're all in this together. We're all working together to try to, flatten the curve and deal with this. But March was a tough month for us, losing 389 members. So my ask is, if you've got a couple bucks a month to spare, consider getting a membership at joinpacman.com. That coupon code 2020 now will save you 66%. So it's $2 a month or 20 for the year, which is only $1.83 a month. And the website is getting hammered, but it looks like it is now mostly back up, and people should be able to start signing up, which is very, very much appreciated. Oliver Minshall, Steve G says, got to look into an auto scaling solution for your site. Ramp up more resources when the load increases. That's what I thought we had. Like, I'm just a lowly host. I don't know that much about that. I thought that we had a cloud hosting solution that's scaled dynamically to the demands, but maybe it's clearly not working. Let me put it that way. Oliver Minshall says, David, thank you for talking about over 18 dependents on your show. I'm a college student and will get no money in the bill, even though I have a tuition due in August. Yeah, there's a lot of people 18 to 24 who are essentially independent, but can be claimed as dependents by their parents, and they will not get a stimulus check. Question for you guys. There is a $10,000 SBA COVID-19. It's kind of a loan, but it's a forgivable loan. So some people are calling it a grant, and it's something that businesses affected by COVID can apply for. Tons of people don't realize that as long as you use the 10 grand, in ways to mitigate being impacted by COVID, you don't have to pay it back. So I'm wondering if you guys think it would be useful for me to do a video just walking people through how to apply for this loan/grant. If people think that that would be useful and interesting, I could definitely put a video together. I talked about it with a couple friends of mine who have their own businesses and are being dramatically affected. That's maybe a sort of extra video I could put together over the weekend, and it is quite a program. I mean, it could be a business saver for some for some businesses. So maybe that's something I'll do over the weekend. Let's see here. Vasily Vanda says, will unemployment rate impact Trump's reelection? Too early to know. Too early to know, but it very may well. Brian Huff says, hearing Trump talk about closing travel to China is like Al Bundy talking about scoring 4 touchdowns in one game for Polk High. Yes, it's essentially ancient history at this point, and it was too little too late. Diane Jones has grabbed a YouTube membership. Dodging Rain says, I am worried about Anthony Fauci. I share your concern. I'm worried about him both in terms of the politics and because he's 79 and he's, as cases rise, I worry about him just getting the virus, which is a whole other issue altogether. Let me say a couple of other thank yous. Julius Kopchevsky is new member number 5 today at joinpacman.com. Thanks so much, Julius. Very much appreciate that. And I understand the website is still sort of struggling, but at least sporadically, people are able to get through and to grab memberships. My web person is working on it literally as we speak. And I will add in asking her, is there anything we can do in the interim to get the website back up? Lots of people are trying to get memberships as we speak. It's ugly, folks. It's ugly out there. The internet tubes have been stretched to the limit. Hugh Jass says, in high school policy debate, we debate Nietzsche, Freud, and anti-blackness. The topic next year is criminal justice reform. Thoughts? How would you do? Well, without preparing, I would do terribly, right? I mean, I think it's for those debates, it's all about preparation. Arthur Schutze says, when Trump tells a lie, point it out. That's what I try to do. Sometimes it's like a Gish Gallop. There's just so many that it's hard to keep up. Austin Eggeman says, I'm looking at the IRS website to see stimulus check qualifications. It seems most people will get between $300 and $800. Only specific situations qualify for close to $1,200. What are your thoughts? My understanding was that qualifying adults who are not dependents, who earn under $75,000, my understanding was everybody got the $1,200. If that is otherwise, then I would love to know more about it. Riley Potter says, I've been seeing Dr. Fauci do a lot of interviews on YouTube trying to reach a younger audience. Can we trust him and do what he says, or is he part of the Trump propaganda team? I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. You've got to do at least what Dr. Fauci says. If you believe that he is being unusually cautious for political reasons, do at least what he says. And that, you're already, if you do that, doing better than a lot of people. And, I wouldn't be shocked if soon we hear some kind of guidance on wear a mask all the time in public. The way they've been answering those questions over the last couple of days, it would not be a huge surprise to me. Ryan Nowicki says, hold on. Where'd Ryan go? Ryan Nowicki says, Judge Reggie Walton just recently forced the Department of Justice to reveal unredacted Mueller report for review to confirm redacted parts as appropriate. What are your thoughts? I have a few articles about that bookmarked, which I've not yet read, so I'll probably comment tomorrow. Chris Davidson says, if Citizens United says corporations are people, then no corporation should get a bailout over $1,200 if they make under $75K, and no money if more than $99K. Yeah, don't hold your breath for that. Brian Somerville has grabbed a YouTube subscription. Burmos says, I'm watching from Europe and it's really concerning what's happening over the pond. Stay strong and safe, guys. Really enjoying your show, though. Yeah, the numbers are truly starting to get scary here. We now are at 211,000 official cases in the U.S. Real number is probably 1 to 2 million, maybe. We are approaching 5,000 deaths and will be there likely later today or tomorrow. 50% of all official cases remain in two states, New York and New Jersey. Michigan having a big growing problem. California on a per capita basis. Remember, California has about 30 million people. That is a big, it's an accomplishment what California has been able to achieve. I mean, look, here in Massachusetts, we have a much smaller population and we have almost the same number of official cases. Okay, let's see here. Did things just freeze? Because it looks like the YouTube chat briefly froze and a couple people told me that I froze. Wow, so a lot of things just going wrong at once. Good on people. Okay, all right, it seems like we're okay. Unfrozen already. Some people saying California's numbers are low because they are not testing currently. That may be. I don't know that much about that. Okay. Cat Titanium Melon Parker says, has anyone asked Trump his take on a rent freeze? I've not heard that question during the press conferences so far. Burmos has grabbed a soy boy level membership, as has Chris Flores. Marika says support for the nationalistic parties in Finland and Sweden has gone down a bit during the corona crisis. A bit of good news, at least. That is good news. Kowalski from Nebraska is now a beta member. Lance Cooper has upgraded to alpha. Friendly Fire says people want to listen to Trump because we all love his nonsense. That's why he'll probably reelected. We love and hate his reality show. What are your thoughts? Yeah, to some degree, that's probably accurate. Let me say thank you to Kathleen Cushing, who is new member number 6 today at joinpacman.com. Marty Gold is new member number 7 today at joinpacman.com. Neil Moreau is new member number 8 today at joinpacman.com. And I'm pleased to see that the website seems to be coming back up. Oh, so we have an emerge. So my webmaster I have people and then she has people and she has her people working on it. And I'm getting a message saying working on keeping the website up right now. I am going to set up HTML caching as well to get that going. All right, so people are working. People are working on this very, very aggressively, very strongly, I should say. So hopefully, the website just came back up for me. So that's good. I'm glad people were able to very, very quickly start working on that. Let me say a few Twitch thank yous. Let me see here. Battle Ready Carter has subscribed with Prime. I Am Simblem has subscribed with Prime. Nix the Ladder has subscribed with Prime and says, thanks for all the hard work, David. Crux Junkie has subscribed. RG Blanchard and Dirtnap both have subscribed. And I Am Computer has sent a cheer, which I very much appreciate. Okay, today's press briefing was scheduled for 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're now 16 minutes past that. We don't know when it will start. They always start late, sometimes 40 minutes late, sometimes 5 minutes late. We still don't really know why. If you're just joining me on YouTube, do me the small favor of hitting like and subscribe. That really helps YouTube recommend more people come to this stream as opposed to others. And thanks to you guys, very importantly, we have surpassed 820,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is nuts, absolutely crazy. So make sure to use the like and subscribe buttons. Dave Matthews says, have you talked about the new Joe Biden's allegation? We have somewhat, and it's a fluid situation, so to speak, so expect more about it. Supralumen says, heard about the U.S. hijacking masks from France? I have not. I have not heard about that. Vasil Vanda has subscribed on YouTube. The Breaker of Walls says, hell yeah, do a video on the 10K relief for COVID-19, a little something to help. Stay strong, David, we need you. Jason Ealing says, best presidents of the 20th century, mine is FDR. I find it very fraught to try to answer those questions. Number one, because very few people agree, but also You know, the needs and circumstances of the United States were so drastically different, for example, in the progressive era of the 1920s compared to during the 2008 recession versus the post-World War II era. So I know it's really popular for a lot of people to say these are the best presidents of this era, that era. I think it's actually really difficult because circumstances required such different things at different points in American history. Let's see here. Addie D says, hey, David, I live in St. Pete, Florida. I have a chance to move back to Somerville, Massachusetts in May. Do you think Corona in Massachusetts will be worse than Florida by then? You know, based on the model, let's take a look. As of right now, Massachusetts is expected to peak on April 17th. Florida is expected to peak on May 3rd because Florida is very late to the game. So my guess is, for both political and mathematical reasons, that Massachusetts will be better off sooner than Florida. That's my instinct right now. Let me say a big thank you to Jerry Silva. Jerry Silva is new member number 9 today at joinpacman.com. Thanks so much, Jerry. Also want to say thank you to Julie Fraser, who's new member number 10. Ryan Wenning is new member number 11. And Jason Wiersma is new member number 12 today at joinpacman.com. It seems as though the website is sort of holding. So this may be a good opportunity if folks were having trouble signing up before to maybe attempt to get one of those cool membership things. Mr. Lieutenant Pink says, should countries have used their militaries more? It depends for what you mean. I'd need to know more about sort of what you have in mind. Let me see here. Lost a bunch of these. Hold on here. Okay, here we go. Per Tiran says, the anti-Semite were reported on Secular Talk. Sickening. I'll check that out. Matthew Lefevre says, what are your thoughts on the role of K through 12 education in the midst of the corona crisis? Well, I mean, I don't know if you mean, like, do I think schools should reopen? Unfortunately, the answer is no, and that's going to be complicated the longer this goes. But no, for now, if you're asking me if I think, like, 6th graders should start going to school now, no. Things have got to stay shut down for the time being. Classy Andy says, Time Magazine has a live feed on YouTube. Oh, let me pull that up. I prefer to know what's going on in the room, you know? Let's see here. Time Coronavirus Live. Let's see if we can get that feed going. Time. I'm actually having trouble finding that. I see yesterday's stream. Oh, here it is. Okay. Very good. So we can keep an eye on this for the time being. And we'll see what's happening in the room. That'll be a good thing. Here we go. Okay, very good. All right, so there's John Roberts from Fox News, and people are starting to file in. Excellent. Hugh Jass says, David, what are your IQ, SAT, and ACT scores? I don't know my IQ. I never took the ACT test. I think my SAT score back in the era where 1600 was a perfect score, I think I had 1320. My parents are not from the US. I'm not from the US. So we didn't really understand the concepts of like studying SAT prep or anything like that. So I just showed up and took the test once and I got a 1320, 1310. And that was fine enough for where I was going to school. So that was like it. That was it. Nicholas Bauer says the SBA made it really simple for the loan. Click the COVID bar on the top of the page. Yeah, I'll do a video in a day or two about that. Jericho Anderson has grabbed a YouTube membership. Keep It Real Cam says, can Trump put off the election and hold his position due to the crisis? So Donald Trump could potentially ask states to postpone the election from November 6th. The problem is that electors are scheduled to cast their ballots. I believe it's December 14th. That's very difficult to delay. And if there's no new president-elect by January 21, the Speaker of the House becomes the president. So I don't think Trump wants Nancy Pelosi to be president. So I wouldn't expect that. I certainly would not be holding my breath for that at this point in time. Okay. Let me say thanks to Darren H for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Very much appreciate that. Lionel Rich says, we need people like you and independent media. So here's my super chat to show my support. Can't go to the pub, so £5 donation instead of a pint is fine. Thanks, Lionel. I appreciate that. Anthony Parr says Washington State has bent the curve pretty well. Went from 3rd in cases to 8th in the U.S. Yeah, and even more relevant are the per capita numbers, which look even better, actually, for Washington State. Wawa Crates says, nobody talking about how the stimulus check is an advance on next year's tax return. If my return is less than $1,200, they keep my return and I'll still owe. I didn't read that. That's not what I've read. So that comes as news to me if that's the case. Aquatic Llamas says, give Pac-Man a like for these streams. Yes, thank you. Most importantly on YouTube. But if you're watching on Twitch, make sure to follow. But most importantly on YouTube, make sure to like the stream and hit the subscribe button. Both extremely, extremely important. ROFL What says, good luck, everybody. Austin Eggeman says, please go to the IRS website with stimulus check qualifications. See which groups get $1,200. I see most only getting $300 to $800. Please help. I'll bookmark that. I don't want to jump into that right now, but I will bookmark that and then take a look, just making a note to myself. And I'll follow up about that for sure. Okay. Unknown Prodigy says, are you personally getting any stimulus or help? We may be getting the small business thing. We may be getting the small business thing that has been allocated. Vuk Vujovic subscribes on YouTube. Hugh Jass says, sell me to join Pac-Man. Why did you block Alex Jones? I don't know what you're talking about. And I would listen, the reason why it's important. Oh, we're getting some blurry video here. The reason why the best place to support us is our website, joinpacman.com, is because that's where we keep the largest share of every payment. And all these other platforms, you know, YouTube, Twitch, etc., they take bigger slices. On our website, we just pay 2.9%. And we keep the rest because we're swiping credit cards. So that's why the website is the best. And I am getting another report that the website is back up and that joinpacman.com should indeed be working. Jeff Richardson upgraded his membership to beta. Elvin says, David, your claim that Joe Biden's mental decline is less severe than that of Trump's is simply false. This is obvious for everyone who pays attention. Yeah, you know, I've spoken to a combination of 5 neurologists and mental health professionals, and none of them believe that what's going on with Joe Biden is as severe as what appears to be going on with Trump. My opinions are relevant. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a mental health expert. I simply go to the experts, and the 5 I've spoken to believe that it is not the same. It's not my area of expertise. Elvin says, oh, that's the same thing. Okay. Friendly Fire says, David, 820,000 subscribers is astonishing. Congratulations. Well, thank you. It's because of you guys that we have 820,000 subscribers. GPWAP2, where'd that go? Says, where did that go? David, please, 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 very briefly look up this lawsuit, Parsa versus Google. It's mind-blowing. Okay, I'll do that, but, I don't want to do it on stream because I don't know what's awaiting me there. FDR imprisoned the Japanese. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. That's true. Rasmus Haymaker says old man's flu, 50% Dutch intensive care is people under 50. Wow. Let's see. So we've gotten the video here on the Time channel has gotten very blurry. Oh, there we go. Now it's back to high def. Very good. Nanny of Many says, wash hands and stay safe, David and all. Maddie Ice says, do a live show in Providence. It's weird. Seemed like a light just went on behind me. Anybody notice that? That was really odd. But all the lights seem like they've been on the whole time. Odd. There are no live shows anytime soon, as many of you can probably imagine. No live shows happening anytime soon, but at some point there will be live shows again. Bradley Ward says, my sister, nurse, was told to use a bandana for a mask. Yeah, it's better than nothing. I mean, listen, all of these pieces of fabric are just lattices. And, you know, with an N95 mask, I believe the lattice leaves a 3-micron gap. With a bandana or a scarf, it's just a different size lattice, and everything's better than nothing. But obviously, health workers need N95 masks, of course. Kowalski from Nebraska says, thanks to the current level of staggering manpower shortage, I'm able to make about $900 a day. So I'm going to keep sharing some love. Also, no beef until this is over. Stay sane, everyone. Thanks, Kowalski. Appreciate that. Ryan Nowicki says, I looked at your site and suggest separating your sign-up page from the site to keep customers from slowing down potential ones and vice versa. Yeah, we're doing everything we can with the website. But, you know, I think we're going to have a meeting of the minds after today's stream with my team so that we can keep the website up and running. It sort of seems to keep crashing. And I'm going to send another message here. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, the team is working on it. But it's all getting very, very ugly just due to the demand on the website. Everybody's working on it. We have a full team working on it at this point in time. Henrik Molin says, love your coverage, love from Denmark. Thanks, Henrik. Beetle Greg says, hi, David. Do you think Argentina can win the World Cup in 2022? You know, I have to tell you, I've not given it any thought. I am not thinking that far ahead at this point in time. James Buccino says, David, do you believe distance learning for K through 12 will be as effective as learning in a real classroom? My instinct is that it's not going to be as effective. And I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and they seem to agree. But yeah, I don't think it will be as effective, at least not in the immediate. Brian Wagner sends a super chat. Stephanie Wagner sends a super chat. Jared Cambero says, David, after COVID-19, will the House Democrats seek accountability on Trump's missteps or inaction if these otherwise result in more deaths? Well, Adam Schiff already said he wants like a bipartisan panel investigating. I don't know what anybody will be able to achieve. We're going to have to deal with that in the post-mortem, if that makes sense. Jonathan says, David, do you think we will see more investment scandals by opportunists like Burr and Trump before this is all over? Yes. Will there be any real consequences for it? Probably not. Probably not. Oh, what's going on here? This is interesting. They're opening up a panel. I've never seen this before. Is this what allows them to pull the TVs out? Somebody maybe asked for the TVs. It's like a, wow, look, this guy's visibly struggling with whatever those panels are. Interesting. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Dave Matthews says, does Trump actually think Canadians are crossing illegally? Militarizing the border will only stop Americans from illegally coming into Canada. At this point, I have no idea what Donald Trump actually believes about that. I really couldn't tell you. Charlie says, is the weather bad in D.C. or did Trump move things back indoors because the wind messed up his wig? I think the last couple days have been colder than Sunday, Monday, when he did the outdoor briefings. Rusty Osgood sends a $10 super chat. Thanks, Rusty. Marty Gold says, what are the details on the chess tournament? No decision yet. We did a chess tournament last week and over 500 people played, and it was fantastic. And people are asking for more frequent chess tournaments. And we're going to see, some part of me thinks I'll just do one on a whim tomorrow night and see who plays, but usually we want to announce it ahead of time. So more likely I might announce one for next week. And then, you know, I think that'll probably get more people playing. Let's see here. Jake Semir says, is there any reason why 2020 Now code is invalid while trying to sign up? No reason. No, it's valid and people are using it. So I think it's probably case sensitive, and you're typing it all with capital N-O-W. I think it needs to be lowercase N-O-W. That's probably part of it. Let's see. I'll try it right now because the website is back up. It's working for me. 2020 Now is working for me. I would make sure that you're not typing it with caps. Polybird has grabbed a YouTube membership. Anderson UWP says, does de Blasio bear any responsibility? He was a hard denier as well. Yeah, de Blasio, too late in the game, was telling people to go to restaurants and, theater or whatever. So de Blasio certainly bears some criticism for sure. Ben Rowan says, hi from locked down New Zealand. I watch you every day and love your work. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Anderson says, oh, okay, that's a duplicate. And also says, did you see the Washington Post mashup of his comments? I did, and it's not good. Get a Grip has upgraded their membership to beta. Moja has upgraded their membership to beta. We have military today. Oh, we have William Barr, chief propagandist, or one of the top ones. A lot of military brass, as they call it. Looks like, was that Kellyanne Conway there on the left? Let me say thank you to Dan Sizemore, who is new member number 13 today at joinpacman.com. Jeffrey Demaray is new member number 14. Cheryl K is new member number 15. The website is coming alive, my friends. I'm glad people are able to sign up. It was really grim there for about a half hour. These folks are all standing way too damn close. Like, what on earth are these people doing? Incredible. Everybody's going to be infected soon. Nate Brody says South Korea and the U.S. first cases occurred on the same day. Yeah, I think it was off by one day. Here's Trump. Let's take a listen.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So, America continues to wage all-out war.
Let's look for a louder feed.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So, America continues to wage all-out war to defeat the virus, this horrible, horrible virus. You see how terrible it is, especially when you look at the numbers from yesterday. And we explained why we're extending our nationwide guidelines to slow the spread for 30 days. Together,
I'm going to tell you, I don't feel great about so many military people up on the stage. I have a bad feeling about what's coming.
Social distancing, economic support for our workers, rapid medical intervention, and very serious innovation, and banning dangerous foreign travel that threatens the health of our people. And we did that early, far earlier than anyone would have thought, and way ahead of anybody else. In this time of need, I know that every American will do their patriotic duty and help us to achieve a total victory. As governments and nations focus on the coronavirus, there's a growing threat that cartels, criminals, terrorists, and other malign actors will try to exploit the situation for their own gain. And we must not let that happen.
So this is Trump literally setting this up with even more warlike imagery.
The United States is launching enhanced counter-narcotics operations in the Western Hemisphere to protect the American people from the deadly scourge of illegal narcotics.
Scourge.
We must not let the drug cartels exploit the pandemic to threaten American lives. In cooperation with the 22 partner nations, U.S. Southern Command will increase surveillance, disruption, and seizures of drug shipments and provide additional support for eradication efforts, which are going on right now at a record pace. We're deploying additional Navy destroyers, combat ships, aircraft and helicopters, Coast Guard cutters, and Air Force surveillance aircraft, doubling our capabilities in the region. Very importantly, our forces are fully equipped with personnel, protective equipment, and we've taken additional safety measures to ensure our troops remain healthy. Secretary Mark Esper, Attorney General Bill Barr, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien will provide more details. In addition, I'm going to have General Milley, who's done an incredible job,
Literal gaslighting.
say a few words. And also with us, our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, who I think you know, and Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Schultz. So I'm going to ask Mark to start, and then we can go. And after that, we're going to take questions as it pertains to this, and then we'll go on to phase 2, which is the virus itself.
Oh,
Okay?
dear
Thank
God.
you, please, Mark.
Total propaganda going on here, guys.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as we make this very important announcement. At a time when the nation and the Department of Defense are focused on protecting the American people from the spread of the coronavirus, we also remain vigilant to the many other threats our country faces. Today, at the President's direction, the Department of Defense, in close cooperation with our interagency partners, began enhanced counter-narcotics operations in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea.
Can you imagine?
This initiative is part of the administration's whole-of-government approach to combating the flow of illicit drugs into the United States and protecting the American people from their scourge.
Yeah, that's what we need to worry
I want to
about
thank
now.
all of our partners in this effort, to include the United States Coast Guard, the Department of Homeland Security, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Department of Justice, and members of the intelligence community for their tremendous support and cooperation. To conduct these enhanced operations, the President has directed the deployment of additional ships, aircraft, and security forces to the United States Southern Command area of responsibility. Included in this force package are Navy destroyers and littoral combat ships, Coast Guard cutters, P-8 patrol aircraft, and elements of an Army Security Force Assistance Brigade. These additional forces will nearly double our capacity to conduct counter-narcotics operations in the region. Additionally, 22 partner nations have joined us in this fight, bringing with them a variety of intelligence and operations capabilities needed to defeat these criminal organizations. Last year alone, United States Southern Command's operations resulted in the seizure of over 280 metric tons of drugs, much of which was designated for shipment to America. While this was an incredible achievement, there is much more work to be done. Transnational criminal organizations continue to threaten our security by smuggling cocaine, fentanyl, methamphetamines, and other narcotics across our borders. These drug traffickers put our communities at risk and destroy lives. Every year, tens of thousands of Americans die from drug overdose, and thousands more suffer the harmful effects of addiction. Furthermore, corrupt actors like the illegitimate Maduro regime in Venezuela rely on the profits derived from the sale of narcotics to maintain their oppressive hold on power. The Venezuelan people continue to suffer tremendously due to Maduro's criminal control over the country.
Maduro.
Drug traffickers are seizing on this lawlessness by increasing their illicit activities. We must do more to prevent these drugs from arriving at our shores. These enhanced counter-narcotics operations that are now underway will further disrupt the flow of illicit drugs to America, deny our adversaries the financial resources they depend on, and build the capacity of our partner nations throughout the region. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership and support to this critical mission. This is a particularly important time for this operation to begin. As nations around the world shift their focus inward to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, many criminal organizations are attempting to capitalize on this crisis. The enhanced operations we are announcing today will keep the pressure on these criminal groups and protect the American people from the devastation caused by the flow of illegal drugs into our country.
Can you imagine?
Mr. President, thank you for your leadership as we begin this important operation. While the men and women of the United States military work hard here at home to fight the coronavirus, we continue to take action around the world to defend our great country. Thank you, and I'd like to invite General Milley.
Website is up, by the way, for folks waiting to sign up.
Thank you, Secretary, for those words, and thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. And I want to publicly thank Admiral Craig Fowler, the commander of U.S. Southern Command out of Miami, for leading this operation, which is underway effective today. And also Admiral Gilday, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Schultz, for their contributions to this from their services. There's thousands of sailors, Coast Guardsmen, soldiers, airmen, Marines involved in this operation. We came upon some intelligence some time ago that the drug cartels, as a result of COVID-19, were going to try to take advantage of the situation and try to infiltrate additional drugs into our country. As we know, there's 70,000 Americans die on an average annual basis to drugs. That's unacceptable. We're at war with COVID-19, we're at war with terrorists, and we are at war with the drug cartels as well. This is the United States military.
God.
You will not penetrate this country. You will not get past Jump Street. You're not going to come in here and kill additional Americans. And we will marshal whatever assets are required to prevent your entry into this country to kill Americans. So right now, the Navy has marshaled additional Gray Hull ships from both PACOM and EUCOM and for the Naval Fleet at Norfolk. And they are set sail already, and they are in the Caribbean right now. In addition to that, there's 10 Coast Guard cutters, and there's Special Operations Forces and Security Force Assistance Brigades, along with Air Force reconnaissance aircraft. The bottom line is you're not going to get through. Now is not the time to try to penetrate the United States with illegal drugs to kill Americans. With the United States military, we will defend our country regardless of the cost. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you,
Wow,
Secretary.
completely toxic propaganda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for your decisive leadership as we confront this unprecedented challenge posed by coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank you for your support for this important initiative, and thank all of the Secretary of Defense and all the services for taking on this important initiative. Obviously, during this crisis, we're all focused above all else on COVID-19. But at the same time, our law enforcement and national security work must go forward, protecting the American people from the full array of threats. For the Department of Justice, one of our highest priorities must remain destroying the Mexican cartels. Their trafficking is largely responsible for the deaths, as we all know now, of 70,000 Americans a year. And also the cost.
I wonder how many of those deaths would be avoided by decriminalizing and legalizing marijuana. I wonder how many.
Of our national treasure, as state budgets are crushed by the burden that this narcotic trafficking causes. The president has made clear that we are in this fight against the cartels to win, and that we are not interested in half measures, and that the threat posed by the cartel is not just a law enforcement threat, but a national security threat as well. And in December, building on your success with the Mexican president in forging a cooperative relationship in the area of immigration, you asked me to go down and meet with the president, Lopez Obrador, and our Mexican counterparts to see if we could also establish a more comprehensive and coordinated effort with the Mexicans in confronting the cartels.
Understand that this is called the coronavirus press briefing in Trump's schedule.
Discussions, and currently have an array of activities underway against the cartels, and we anticipate, along with the Mexicans, that these are going to bear fruit in the months ahead. But it quickly became clear that we can obtain the most immediate results, the best bang for the buck, where we increase the assets involved in interdiction on both the Pacific and Atlantic side of Mexico and the Central American countries. For years, the cartels have been using these sea routes to take the cocaine up from principally Colombia, now also out of Venezuela. And these sea routes on both coasts have become the primary means of bringing cocaine up to the United States. Because of the superb work done by the Defense Department and our intelligence community, we know exactly, most of the time, where these traffickers are at sea. But have been up till now, significantly limited in our ability to interdict because of the numbers of the assets we have deployed. Prior today, this limitation meant we could only intercept a fraction of the traffickers and the various boats that were detected. This will now double our capacity, and we are talking about hundreds of tons of cocaine now we're now in a position to seize. So this is going to radically improve our interdiction efforts and put tremendous pressure, we think, on the cartels. And the effort that Southcom is undertaking is going to save lives by taking...
I mean, it's like, should we even be listening to this? This has nothing to do with coronavirus. This is just, military propaganda, essentially, and misdirection.
...crimes against the former Maduro regime, 16 members of that regime. and their involvement in trafficking of 250 metric tons a year. A lot of that comes by sea, as I discussed at that time, but also because of the pressure we're applying by our sea interdiction, they are trying to establish an air route out of Venezuela up into Central America, which is one of the reasons we're trying to move firmly against that corrupt regime. This drug war has gone on for many decades, and at times in the past, we've had great success and great results, and at times we've taken our eye off the ball. Fortunately, not in this administration, and I'm grateful that you, Mr. President, have brought focus to this fight.
5 people literally died of coronavirus while they've been talking about, sending destroyers to the Caribbean.
Have to be defeated, both for the people of this country and for the people of Mexico and Venezuela. So I'd like to thank you again, Mr. President, Secretary Esper, for providing the wherewithal required to help win this war against the cartels and others who seek to send illicit drugs into our country. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ambassador O'Brien.
Great, that's just what we need.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. President. Today's action is another example of the bold leadership of President Trump and his commitment to protecting the homeland against threats that seek to destabilize the United States and our Western Hemisphere. The uncontrolled flow of illegal drugs into the United States poisons our communities, fuels the dangerous epidemic of addiction, and threatens the safety and security of all Americans. The impressive U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and interagency operation will address a range of threats to our national security posed by narco-traffickers and narco-terrorists. It will reduce illicit financial support for drug trafficking that provides the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela and other bad actors with the funds necessary to conduct their malign activities. Under President Trump's leadership, we will continue to execute our maximum pressure policy to counter the Maduro regime's malign activities, including drug trafficking. And this operation will help to choke off the funds that go to that corrupt regime. Maduro, narco-terrorists, and criminals should make no mistake that even as we are working around the clock to fight the spread of coronavirus, we will continue to execute the President's counter-narcotic strategy. We're working on a number of important national security priorities as we face this public health crisis. The United States will continue to combat disinformation and fake news about this virus.
You're the source of it.
World's largest oil producers to address volatility in global oil markets. We will always protect our servicemen and servicewomen around the world, including in Iraq and Afghanistan. I want the American people to know that President Trump and Vice President Pence and their administration are working tirelessly every day to protect the health and well-being of Americans and respond to the coronavirus. Our adversaries should take note, however, this president has a clear-eyed focus on America's national security interest. And let me be clear, it would be a mistake with terrible consequences for any adversary to attempt to do us harm during this health crisis or ever for that matter. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. So do we have any questions on this? Because this
It would be great if
group is gonna
nobody
go back
asked
to work.
questions, actually.
Question either for you, Mr. President, or Secretary Esper. What has changed that is allowing these assets to be deployed now, whereas General Barr said in the past they were not available?
Well, for a long time, we've had a lot of drugs coming into our country, and it's not that it's increased. We've probably got it down a little bit, but it's still a tremendous number. Families are being ruined, lives are being ruined. It's an incredible thing, especially as you're at this position.
End the war on drugs, guys.
Nobody would believe. I see reports that nobody would believe. So I met with the group behind me, all of them, and we said, what do you think we can do? And they think they can interdict. They think that we can stop it before it gets to the shores. And they're coming from all over the place. And we have incredibly talented people. So I think I'm going to let Mark just give them a little bit of an answer to that. But we just want to see if we can stop a good percentage of the drugs.
You are seeing propaganda sort of iterated in real time here.
Matter of prioritization. The president's given us very clear guidance on what's important to him and protecting the American people. And as some of you know, I began a review months ago looking at all of our different geographic combatant commands and looking at where we can free up time, money, and resources to put into other endeavors. In this case, we had scrutinized our inventory fairly closely. Chairman Milley did a great deal of work on this with Admiral Gilday, and we felt that there was no risk to the fleet, to our operations, to free up, in this case, naval ships. We also freed up aircraft and other assets to apply them to this presidential priority. And of course, the Coast Guard did the same. So it was a very good operation.
Understand that the worse coronavirus gets, the more insane they get, where now the briefing is straight up about sending ships to the Caribbean.
We're going to run it for some matter of time. I'm not going to disclose how long that will be, and then we will assess it, and then we'll make adjustments from there. We may increase, we may decrease, we may sustain as is, but this will be an assessment we will do as an interagency team. We'll report back to the president, and we'll take further guidance from there.
And we didn't do it for this reason, but it'll also have an impact on the virus. Because
I would love it if no one asked any more questions about this and forced them to move on to talk about the virus.
at least for the next, hopefully, short period of time, the virus, so we'll be able to have an impact on that too, please.
Yeah, Mr. President, could you expand on that a little bit, because you tie it to COVID-19, saying that these drug cartels were taking advantage of the situation, of this pandemic. How exactly?
Well, because we're focused on so many other parts of the country and even parts of the world. And all of a sudden, areas where we had it clamped down pretty tight. In fairness, the wall is up to about 160 miles already. And any areas where we have that wall, it's for the most part contiguous. We have fill-ins, but we're up to 161 miles exactly. And any place where you have that wall, other than walking around it on the edges, it's stopping everybody cold. I mean, we're stopping. Nobody's seen anything like
yes,
it.
The 100 miles on a 2,000-mile border, unless you walk around it, is stopping everybody.
All of a sudden, they changed. It's having a tremendous impact. But we are now focused on so many different things because of what's happened, because of this horrible, I say it's a horrible phenomena, that now we've got to focus on drugs. And the drugs come in from different methods, and we have the best people at sea anywhere in the world. So we'll have a tremendous impact on drugs. But one of the other things will also have an impact, we think, on the virus. Okay? Yeah, please.
Ambassador O'Brien, did China underreport both the number of cases and the death toll from the coronavirus?
Good question.
And if that's the case, Mr. President, what does that mean for our relationship with China and your relationship with President Xi?
Well, number one, I think the president has a great relationship with President Xi, and we'd like to have a great relationship with China. Unfortunately, we're just not in a position to confirm any of the numbers that are coming out of China. There's no way to confirm any of those numbers. There's lots of public reporting on whether the numbers are too low. You've got access to those reports that are coming out of Chinese social media and some of the few reporters that are left in China. We just have no way to confirm any of those numbers. Thank you.
We really don't know. How do we know whether they underreported or reported however they report? But we had a great call the other night. We're working together on a lot of different things, including trade. They're buying a lot. They're spending a lot of money. They're giving it to our farmers. They're paying our farmers for the product. So, we're gonna continue.
That's Trump saying, I don't really care if they're lying about the numbers. They're giving us money.
Earlier today, that there was, you have uncovered intelligence that there is a sneak attack being planned against American troops, American assets in Iraq. Are we talking about Kataib Hezbollah again? Also,
I don't want to say, but we just have information that they were planning something, and it's very good information. It was led by Iran, not necessarily Iran, but by groups supported by Iran, but that to me is Iran. And we're just saying, don't do it. Don't do it. It'd be a very bad thing for them if they did it.
The last time they did do it in early March at Camp Taji, there was a response from the military against Kataib Hezbollah and Kataib Hezbollah alone.
That was a very powerful response, by the way. That response knocked out 5 different places, but it also took out a lot of very bad people.
Your tweet seemed to suggest, though, that if it happens again, it may go up the food chain.
Well, that was a very big response. We knocked out a lot. They hit one site, we hit 5 big ones and ammunition sites. You saw what happened, and I won't say how many people were killed, but some bad people were killed, and a lot of them. That was a big response, but this response will be bigger if they do something. Yeah, you have one, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just going back to your conversation with President Xi, wondering if you received an intelligence report that talked about the discrepancy in the numbers, and if you addressed that with President Xi.
We have not received that, but their numbers seem to be a little bit on the light side, and I'm being nice when I say that, relative to what we witnessed and what was reported. But we discussed that with him, not so much the numbers as what they did and how they're doing. And we're in constant communication with, I would say the biggest communication is myself and President Xi. The relationship's very good. We have, look, they're spending, they will be spending when things even out. This is obviously a little bit of a hurdle, what's happened over the last month. But they'll be spending $250 billion buying our product, $50 billion to the farmers alone, $200 billion to other things. They never did that before. So we have a great trade deal, and we'd like to keep it. They'd like to keep it, and the relationship is good. As to whether or not their numbers are accurate, I'm not an accountant from China.
Strain things at all in terms of the trade deals?
No, because people just don't know. People don't know where did it come from. I think we all understand where it came from, and President Xi understands that. We don't have to make a big deal out of it. We didn't like the fact that they said it came from our soldiers, and they haven't pursued that. It was, and that was a mid-level person said that. That was not a high-level person. So I will always assume the best. I'll assume the high-level people didn't know about it. It was a foolish statement. So. Look, the relationship with China is a good one, and my relationship with him is, really good. Please.
Can I follow up just on that point on Chinese propaganda that you mentioned, as well as Ambassador O'Brien? So in the past several weeks, China has been shipping PPEs, masks. They've either been selling or donating everywhere: Africa, Europe, Italy, Russia, and really pushing this narrative that they're taking on a global leadership role in the crisis. So what are your thoughts on that? And is there any plan for the administration to take on that role?
I view that as a positive if they're helping other countries. We have 151 countries right now that are under siege by the virus. Under siege. Some are doing really badly.
Scourged.
They don't know about social distancing. These are countries that aren't highly sophisticated. They don't have great communication to the rest of the world.
Trump's calling them
know
savages.
The things that we're doing and that some others are able to do. And if China can help them, I'm all for it. I'm for all of us helping everybody. We're soon going to have more ventilators than we need. We're building thousands of ventilators right now. Now, it takes a period of time to build them.
Understand, we have shortages right now. Places need them now. He won't send them from the stockpile. He's bragging in the future we'll have more than we need.
Because even after we stockpile for some future catastrophe, which we hope doesn't happen, we're going to be distributing them, the extras, around the world. We'll go to Italy, we'll go to France, we'll go to Spain, which is very hard hit.
On that note, is there any truth on reporting that your administration is stopping shipment of USAID stockpiles of PPEs abroad?
No truth whatsoever. No.
It's
your
true.
administration
We
is
want.
not.
I would love China and other countries if they
Trump officials have admitted that already. This guy's just a liar.
medical supplies to give to other countries. 150. Why would I stop that? Wouldn't that be terrible to stop it?
Is the U.S. stopping shipment of our own stockpile through USAID to other countries?
Whatever we have, whatever we've committed to, we commit. But we also need a lot for ourselves. So we're very focused on that until we get over this. So obviously we're not going to be shipping too much until now. We do have excess of certain things, and we don't have enough of others. I just had a great talk today with the Doug McMillan from Walmart, and I gave him a very, very big order for
Sponsored.
gowns, for protective gear, for the doctors, for the nurses, for everything, and he's actually very excited about it. He's the biggest purchaser of this
Of course he is.
kind of thing. I mean, of anything probably in the world, and he is very excited about it.
What an accomplishment. You got the Walmart CEO excited by giving him a big order.
These hospitals, the amount that they order, you almost say, how could they possibly use so much, whether it's masks or the protective gear? But we are supplying a tremendous amount, and we just ordered a lot from Walmart. And he's taken this on personally. And I said, let it be shipped not to a warehouse, directly to the side of the hospital or wherever they need it, because we save a lot of time when we do that. So Walmart, in addition to many other companies and people, is now involved at the highest level. Please.
The announcements that were made today are aimed at curbing the flow of narcotics into the country. Are you concerned that we're possibly losing ground on the drug crisis while we're...
I don't think we're losing ground, but we don't want to lose ground. That's why we're doing it. I don't want to lose ground. It's a big fight. I've seen many families where they're wiped out because they lost a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife or whatever, or all of them. And we don't want to lose ground. And we are heavily focused on the virus, very heavily focused. And with this, we have never, after this goes into effect, which essentially is now, we will never have been so focused on drugs coming into our country as we are right now. And remember, as that wall gets bigger, that really helps us a lot. Really helps us a lot. Yeah, please.
Is the Mexican government or any other Latin American government working in conjunction with this operation to help that drug?
Many of the governments are, and Mexico in particular is. And Mexico right now we have 27,000 Mexican soldiers on our.
Notice he slips in like the wall as if it's being built, you know, just casually drops that in there.
People are coming into our country right now. And as we complete, again, the wall, in addition to the 27,000 soldiers,
wall's not getting done, guys.
It's a very tough place to come into. When I took over, people were coming in and they were bringing whatever they wanted. They were bringing drugs of any type, and now it's very hard for them, and it will get harder and harder. But the president of Mexico is a great guy who's really helped us a lot. 27,000 soldiers, 27,000 Mexican soldiers. And you remember when I first took over, they had all of the caravans coming up with 10,000, 15,000 people in the caravans. They were marching through Mexico. That's not happening anymore. Please, in the back.
Mr. President, are narco militants such as the FARC 57th Front out of Colombia or the Maduro regime, do you know if they're working in conjunction with the Mexican cartels? Is there any intelligence indicating that?
I cannot tell you that. I know the answer to that. I believe I do, but I cannot tell you that. We have information that would lead us to believe something very powerfully, but I cannot tell you the answer to that. Yeah, please.
We believe it very powerfully, but I can't tell you.
Is in Iraq taking any precautions because of this particular attack? And have you?
They're taking precautions, and we are watching it very closely. And if something bad happens, it's going to be very painful for the other side.
Have you been in touch with the Iraqi government about this?
They know about it, yeah. They know.
Are they offering additional protection or
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But, we're down to a small force now over the years. Since I got, we've been bringing smaller and smaller. And we're down right now to a small number, but we have very powerful air power there. We have the big base, and which will, nobody can get near it. And nobody can even get near that. But we've really largely left. We've taken tremendous amounts out, and we've deployed them elsewhere, including bringing some back home.
And do you think tweeting about it will help prevent that from happening, or perhaps give them a heads up?
It's social media. It gets out. I have, hundreds of millions of people. Number one on Facebook. Did you know I was number one on Facebook? And I just found out I'm number one on Facebook. I thought that was very nice, for whatever it means. No, it represents something.
It's nice.
When I can explain to people, just don't do it. It's going to be bad if you do. It's going to be really bad. And they don't need to do it. They have enough problems. Iran has enough problems without doing that. But we've been pulling back very substantially over the last year in Iraq. And so, that's the way it is.
You said before you don't want to give the enemy, whoever that is in this case, a heads up. Do you feel like maybe you did?
No, I'm just giving them a warning. It's not a heads up. I'm giving them a warning. There's a big difference. I'm saying if you do anything to hurt our troops, they're gonna pay a price. Now, they did last time, as per the question. They did last time.
Is this the April Fool's press conference and then the real one starts in a few minutes?
5 massive, major ammunition sites. And a lot of people went with it. A lot of bad people. A lot of enemy went with it. And we didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but they paid a big price. They'll pay a much bigger price this time if they do anything.
Now that we have Admiral Gilday here, perhaps we could ask a question about what the plans are for the Roosevelt, sir?
Sure.
In terms of Roosevelt, we're making great progress in terms of testing and also moving people off the ship. So in the past day or so, we've moved over 1,000. That number will increase to more than 2,700 by Friday as we continue to increase the testing as well and fly those samples off. So we're getting after it pretty quickly.
And will the ship remain fully operational?
It is fully operational now.
And will remain so?
It will remain so.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? What protocols are you putting in place to help mitigate the spread of coronavirus among servicemen and women who live and work in close
across the
Good
fleet,
question.
before we have any ships getting underway for training exercises, for deployments, they're spending those sailors are spending 14 days in quarantine before they get underway. We've increased the amount of testing equipment as well as physicians on board our ships at sea. So we've taken additional steps since the beginning of the COVID
Not too
crisis.
many people are going to be getting off at various ports anymore, right? I think we probably have decided on that.
I think Trump thinks they're talking about a cruise ship. That did you notice that? Did anybody catch that? That was a very confused look on the military guy's face.
About there that we should just shut down the entire United States military and address the problem that way. That's not feasible. We have a mission. Our mission is to protect the United States of America and our people. And so we live and work in cramped quarters, whether it's an aircraft carrier, a submarine, a tank, a bomber. It's the nature of our business. But the chain of command has very clear guidance, and I'm confident between the commanding officers and the senior non-commissioned officers that they're taking every reasonable precaution to make sure we practice as best we can social distancing, sanitizing environments, et cetera, consistent with that mission. And that's what I trust Admiral Gilday, Acting Secretary Motley, and all the other service chiefs and service leaders to do. And I'm confident we'll do that, because keep in mind, we have a job to do, and we will continue to do it, defend the United States of America.
Mr. President, you mentioned the stockpile earlier. The Washington Post reported today that the U.S. stockpile is nearly depleted of PPE. Is that the case? And if so, how are you planning to mitigate
because
that?
we're sending it directly to hospitals. We don't want it to come to the stockpile, because then we have to take it after it arrives and bring it to various states and hospitals. One of the things, and again, we ask the states to do this as much as possible. Many of the states have people that, whether it's that or clothing, they make clothing, lots of clothing in many of the different states. We said, see if you can get it directly from those manufacturers. Make a deal. We'll use the Purchase Act if we have to on them. If they won't, by the way, so many people are. The spirit is incredible what they're doing, but we've asked states where they have large manufacturers of different types of equipment to use those local factories, those local plants, and have it made directly, ship it right into the hospitals. We're shipping things right in. We have, as you know, almost 10,000 ventilators, which we need for flexibility. It's a lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's not, because as you see on the board from yesterday, as this scourge, as this plague, as this virus moves, it moves very fast. And we don't know yet whether we're going to need it in Louisiana, in New York, you know, wherever it may be. So we're ready for it. We're totally ready for it. We're going to be shipping out. We've already agreed to ship out over 1,000 today to different sites, different locations. But we have to have the flexibility of moving the ventilators to where the virus is going. And we'll be able to see that, you know, we'll be able to see that from charts a couple of days in advance. So right now we have a nice pile of ventilators. We have a lot more coming in. We have a lot of, I think we have 11 companies making ventilators right now. Very good companies.
So the important fact check is there are currently states, blue states, that have asked for stuff they still have not gotten from the government. And Trump says, well, everybody has what they need and we're holding stuff.
15 minutes. It's not, a mask can go quickly. A ventilator takes time to build. It's very, very, as we discussed, it's complex, it's big, it's expensive, you know, et cetera. But we'll be able to move. We have great flexibility, John.
I was just going to say, sir, do you want to move on to solely coronavirus or stick with?
Yeah, I think if does anybody have any other questions for this great
So
group?
just so people know, we were expecting a coronavirus press briefing, and all these military people came out and they announced that they're sending ships and Venezuela and all of this sort of stuff. It's a total disinformation propaganda. It's propaganda warfare, essentially, is what we have here. That's the war. And we still haven't even started the COVID press briefing.
19 patients?
Well, excuse me, as you know, we have the hospital ships currently deployed, one in LA and one in New York City. So they could be treating patients as they come in. We're taking precautionary measures to screen them beforehand to make sure that they're not exposed, if you will. Same with the military hospitals that we are deploying, certainly again to New York, Seattle, and other places. But the one thing we got to be careful of is that these are deployable assets. They are unique. So if we want to retain the ability to deploy military doctors, expeditionary military hospitals around the country, we got to preserve and protect them as best we can. That said, we remain completely available to assist as need be, as directed by FEMA, as the Vice President and the President asks us. That's what we commit to do to the American people to help safeguard them and protect them through this virus.
So as part of that, will they be seeing coronavirus patients, or will they strictly be seeing other patients and helping those?
They could have called upon. I think the best use for them is based on their training and how they're structured and organized is for trauma. We can take the load off of hospitals with regard to their trauma patients, thereby freeing up rooms, and other doctors, particularly doctors who are, respiratory nurses or doctors who deal with infectious disease, to treat those type of patients. So I think it's the best use of our resources. But again, if push comes to shove, we're prepared to do what we have to assist the American people. At the same time, preserving the medical capability we need to support our Operation Deployed Forces abroad.
And we're looking at doing 2 additional brand-new hospital ships, because these ships have really, they've really struck a blow, very positive blow for what they're doing, going to Los Angeles, going into New York. So we're looking very seriously at building 2 additional ships of about the same size.
Building 2 new ones or deploying 2?
It'll either be, building, but we're looking at building either 2 new ones or doing the renovation of another large ship. But this has really worked out well, so probably 2 brand new ones.
So, Mr. President,
Is this concerning the gentleman, or do you want them, you don't want them to get back to work and capture all those bad people?
A follow-up, Mr. President, or
Go ahead.
Mr.
Sure,
Secretary. I know that Secretary Wilkie has said he's on standby waiting to hear if VA hospitals need to be opened, the doors need to be opened to civilians.
True.
Are you talking about that?
Yes,
Could we
are.
see that happen?
In
How
fact,
soon
certain
could that
hospitals,
happen?
yeah, it can move very quickly. He's a very capable man. We're ready to move very quickly. As an example, in Louisiana, they have a very big hospital, so we're looking to move very quickly if we need them. Hopefully we won't need them. We're going to find out pretty soon. We're only going to know when, at the time it happens. We prepare for the worst. We are preparing for the worst. Unfortunately, that's the way we have to look at it.
Just to follow up on the purpose of these naval ships, you mentioned something about treating trauma patients, and I'm just curious. What about things like giving birth? Would mothers be expected in New York, for example?
Well, as I understand, they're not doing that on the ship. That's the one thing they're not doing outside of the COVID-19. They're not doing that. The birth of a baby not being done on the ships.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question with Attorney General Barr, please? This has to do with the visa restrictions on immigrant doctors. Is the administration considering easing the restrictions or waiving restrictions for doctors with J1 or H1B visas so they can help other doctors during this crisis?
Actually, the immigration laws are no longer under the administration of the Department of Justice, and I haven't been participating in any of those discussions.
What about you, Mr. President? Can you respond to that
One
question,
more for
Mr.
this group
President?
back.
To Secretary
Trump has no
Esper,
idea.
The WHO, this is on the topic of coronavirus in Iran. The WHO confirms that Iran is vastly underreporting its coronavirus
Propaganda
cases, not
question.
just cases, but fatalities. According to on-the-ground estimates, that might be as high as 15,500 deaths.
Oh, it's this woman again.
32 commanders in the military in Iran are now confirmed either in dire condition or dead. You have 8% of the parliament now down with coronavirus. So is Iran's soundings of aggressions today that President Trump just tweeted
Soundings
about,
of
do you
aggression.
think strategically, is that a bluff on their part, or is this a sign of very clear desperation? Where are you strategically on that?
Well, first and foremost, we empathize for the Iranian people. I mean, they clearly have been hit hard. As you know, I think the president's spoken about it, certainly Secretary Pompeo. We've offered assistance, we've offered medical supplies, et cetera. They have refused that. I think if the Iranian regime put more interest in terms of taking care of their people, in the context of this virus, they would be better served. Instead, the Iranian regime continues to want to spread its malign activities throughout the region. They want to continue to send out the Quds Force and others to cause problems throughout the region. We know that in one way, shape, or form, they're either resourcing, directing, approving, or whatever operations for Shia militia groups in Iraq that are targeting American forces. So I think at the end of the day, again, I feel deep concern for the Iranian people. The important thing is that the Iranian government should focus on them and stop this malign behavior that they've been conducting now for over 40 years. I think the entire region, and certainly the Iranian people, would be better off for it.
Let's
And I
get
happen
to the
think they want to
coronavirus.
make a deal. They just don't know really how to start. And they've been given some bad advice by former Secretary Kerry. some very bad advice.
Oh, dear.
And I really think they want to make a deal, which is the Logan Act, but would have to look at the Logan Act. All you have to do is take a look. I think they've been given very bad advice by Secretary Kerry. I think that they're dying to make a deal. Look, their country's in trouble. Their economics are shot. They've got a lot of bad things going. I think they'd like to make a deal. They can get it settled very quickly. No nuclear weapons. No nuclear weapons. They can't have nuclear weapons. It's very simple. Okay, let's let these folks get back to work. Is that okay? Thank you all very much.
So now they are about to start the coronavirus press briefing. It hasn't even started yet, which is incredible. Here's Kellyanne Conway. It's incredible. I guess now we're going to soon get to, maybe Trump is just staying out, I guess, to do corona now.
So as we deploy our service members to combat both threats abroad, invisible enemy at home, earlier today I spoke to our nation's incredible warriors and military families. Spent a long time on the phone with thousands and thousands of families that were hooked in. In order to stop the spread of the virus, some of these families have delayed planned moves to their next duty station. And in other cases, military families are also waiting longer to welcome home their heroes from deployment. There's a tremendous burden to bear, and the families have been involved with us for so long, and they are incredible. Without the families, they couldn't be the great service members that they turned out to be, and they understand that. And I must say, protecting our military families is our top priority. So they understand what's happening with respect to the virus, and they understand it well. They've been fantastic. As Commander-in-Chief, I'm deeply grateful for our service members, their spouses, and their children, whose love, devotion, and sacrifice keeps America strong. To make, procure, and deliver crucial medical supplies to our doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers, my administration is leveraging the might of American manufacturing supply chains and innovators across the industry and across every industry. And I just told you about Walmart, and I could tell you about many more. Hanes is making protective gear and masks.
They're making
and
Trump's
we're making
briefs.
tremendous amounts of product. There's never been anything like it. At the same time, I tell the governors, get it yourself if you can from your local companies and your local warehouses and factories. If you can do that, you should do that. Because of the actions that we've taken under the Defense Production Act, manufacturers and suppliers are sharing with FEMA and HHS their planned orders and allocations to states and to hospitals all over the region. This enables FEMA and HHS to work closely with states, local governments, and private sector to allocate critical resources to highly impacted areas. Working together, we're entirely focused on getting materials to the right place at the right time. So we wanted to go directly to a hospital or directly to a certain state location.
It does look like Pence is wearing a hat, doesn't it?
The state's warehouses, if we can avoid the warehouses, it's even better because they go directly into a hospital. And one example of that is Ohio, the great state of Ohio. Senator Rob Portman called today, and he asked for some help and got us, did a tremendous job, along with Mike DeWine, the great governor of Ohio, to facilitate a donation of 2.2 million gowns. 2.2 million gowns. Think of what that is, 2.2 million. To the Strategic National Stockpile from Ohio-based Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health, we appreciate it, and they're making much more than that and different types of things. We're profoundly grateful for their contribution to protect the lives and safety of our healthcare professionals. Cardinal's been working with us very well. FEMA and HHS formed a historic partnership with the private sector called Project Airbridge to bring supplies from other countries to the United States, including gloves, gowns, goggles, and masks. These supplies will soon be distributed around the country. We have large cargo planes coming in from various parts of the world. Every day, new plane loads are landing in cities such as New York, Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles. Additional flights have been scheduled, and we're adding more and more. And they're actually coming in ahead of schedule. A lot of these flights are coming in with a lot of material ahead of schedule. The amount of usage, the amount of need is something that nobody's ever seen before. We are getting so much, but no matter how much we get, they seem to use it up very quickly. More than 17,000 National Guard personnel have now been activated all across our country. On Tuesday, the Vice President sent a letter to the governors calling on them to have plans in place to use the National Guard to move medical supplies from warehouses to hospitals. So a lot of times we'll deliver supplies to a warehouse in a state, someplace in New York or in New Jersey or in Connecticut or wherever it may be, and they're having difficulty getting it moved. So what we're doing, if we don't bring it directly to the hospital, is we've authorized, it was a special authorization, the National Guard to go into that facility and to move it for the state. So the National Guard is moving a lot of this equipment and medical supplies into a hospital or into an area where it's needed by the state. As I said yesterday, difficult days are ahead for our nation. We're going to have a couple of weeks, starting pretty much now, but especially a few days from now, that are going to be horrific. But even in the most challenging of times, Americans do not despair. We do not give in to fear. We pull together, we persevere, and we overcome, and we win. This week, every American heart is joined with the people of New York as they continue to bear the brunt of the pandemic. To every New Yorker, please know that we are by your side. I love New York. And every day we will be with you. And it could very well be that others take over from New York. There are some areas, some hot spots in other states that are really exploding. Some, like Louisiana, were very late. And then all of a sudden, it was like an explosion.
Yes.
In confronting this deadly plague, America is armed with capabilities never dreamed of in past centuries. You look at 1917, the pandemic, it was something, ravaged parts of this country, but ravaged Europe, ravaged. They say 75 to 100 million. Some people say 50 to 75 million. People died. Think of that. And that was a long time ago, over 100 years ago. Many books written about the 1917, 1918 pandemic.
None of which he's read.
Our doctors are poring over the virus genetic code, designing potential therapies and vaccines. Our planes are airlifting supplies from every corner of the earth. We're watching other countries, and they're watching us to see whether or not and who's going to be the first to come up with a cure or a remedy of some kind, or even a help, if it can help, and of course a vaccine. We're looking very strongly for a vaccine. Johnson & Johnson is doing well, and other companies are doing very well. But our most powerful asset, our greatest weapon in this effort, is the spirit of our people, and we want to keep away, keep a distance, keep away. If you don't get it, it solves a lot of problems. If you don't get it, and you can't get it if you keep the distance. American spirit is unyielding, unwavering, and unbreakable. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it, the way the people have pulled together, the unity of this country. So together we're going to win this war, and the sooner we do, the sooner we can begin to rebuild, and we're ready to rebound and return to normal lives. We went from the best economy in the history of the world, the best economy that this country has ever seen, the best employment numbers we've ever had, 160 million people working, almost 160 million, to a point where the professionals came to me and they say, "Sir, you're going to have to shut the country down." I said, "What does that mean?" They said, "Sir, you're going to have to shut it down."
Sir, the sir routine.
And we're going to build it up, and I think we're going to build it up fast. I think we're going to have a tremendous rebound. There's a great energy and a great pent-up demand. And as you know, phase 3 was terrific, and phase 4, what passed in Congress, and phase 4, if that happens, will be great. I already proposed paying almost zero interest on bonds, and I proposed a $2 trillion infrastructure plan, which would not only fix our roads and highways and bridges and tunnels and other things, but will also do something very good. It's called jobs. I'm also asking that restaurants and entertainment facilities go back to the old deductibility from corporations where corporations can buy, because otherwise a lot of these restaurants are going to have a hard time reopening. It takes a long time, and they're going to have a hard time reopening. So we're asking for going back to deductibility where corporations can buy and corporations can go out to lunch and they pay and they get a deduction on what they eat. They get a deduction on the bill. And
He barely understands that.
Same with the entertainment. It's going to bring a lot of people back. I think it'll open up the restaurant business. People forget that years ago they had that, and when they got rid of it, when they ended it, for whatever reason, but they ended it, many, many restaurants went out of business. Many entertainment-type facilities went out of business. And now's a great time to bring it back. It was a terrible time for that business after they ended it, but this is a great time to bring it back. It'll keep our restaurants
Let a
going.
doctor
In fact, I think
speak.
the restaurant
Come on,
business will
dude.
be actually bigger and better than it is right now. So we're also talking about that. And now what we'll do is we'll take some questions, and I see Mike is back with some of the folks. That's great, Dr. Fauci. And we will, how are you? Thank you, Deborah. So we'll take some questions, and we make progress day by day, please.
Hey, listen, he
Mr.
seems to
President-
recognize the people on the stage. That's a start.
A friend you had who was in a coma. I'm sorry to hear your friend's going through that. But you said this is no flu. There's still some people who kind of think of this as the flu, and over the past month, you've compared it to the flu sometimes, saying treat it like the flu, or
Beautiful.
what treat it how we handle the flu. So what
Nasty.
changed your thinking on that, or your
I think
language
the
on that?
severity. I think also in looking at the way the contagion, it is so contagious. Nobody's ever seen anything
All of which
like
we
this,
knew.
where large groups of people, all of a sudden, just by being in the presence of somebody, have it. The flu has never been like that, and flu is contagious, but nothing like we've ever seen here. Also, the violence of it. If it hits the right person, and you know what those stats are, if it hits the right person, that person's in deep trouble. And my friend was the right person.
When you heard about that with your friend, like, was that a turning point?
Yeah,
in your
well, not a
thinking?
turning point. No, before then I knew how, because I'm seeing numbers and I'm seeing statistics that are, not exactly.
Mr. President, you said it'd be gone by April like a miracle. Would you care to take that back and acknowledge how irresponsible it was?
Kind of a guy, but he's older, he's heavier, and he's sort of central casting for what we're talking about, and it hit him very hard. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, John?
Mr. President, and maybe this is a question as well for Dr. Birx or Dr. Fauci. Senator Lindsey Graham tweeted last night, and we checked today, that there are still flights that are running between hotspots like New York and Detroit, New Orleans as well. A number of flights were completed today. Senator Graham's point is, if you're going to declare mitigation, should it not be full mitigation, and you stop people from traveling?
Well, we're thinking about doing that. At the same time, we just, to start these airlines and to start this whole thing over again is very tough, John. It's very tough. And you have them going, in some cases, from hotspot to hotspot. If you notice, they're usually hotspot to hotspot. Very few flights, New York to Miami. But we're thinking, we're certainly looking at it. But once you do that, you really are clamping down an industry that is desperately needed.
But how do you make that calculation as to whether or not you keep the industry afloat or your risks spreading contagion?
That is a calculation that we're looking at right now. We're looking at it very strongly.
Tony's got a
Let me
protractor
follow up to
figure
that,
out.
Mr. President. Not every governor has issued a stay-at-home order. All of you have made it very clear how important it is to stay home, that we are in a dire situation here. And that's how you stop the spread, is staying home.
sure.
Why not take
Wait a second.
the
Is
power-
that Kira Phillips? These two are married. Is that actually Kira Phillips? I've met her before. I'm pretty sure she's married to John Roberts.
Different, and I understand that Governor of Florida, great governor, Ron DeSantis, issued one today, and that's good, that's great. But there are some states that are different. There are some states that don't have much of a problem. There are some, well, they don't have the problem. They don't have thousands of people that are positive, or thousands of people that even think they might have it, or hundreds of people in some cases. So you have to look. You have to look at states. You have to give a little bit of flexibility. But if a state in the Midwest, or if Alaska, as an example, doesn't have a problem, it's awfully tough to say, close it down, So we have to have a little bit of flexibility. Look, we're helping governors. We're really here to help governors. They're the front line of attack. And that includes in purchasing, by the way. We're here and we're backing them up. And there's never been a backup like we've given them. We've given them billions of dollars worth of things, medical supplies and ventilators, thousands and thousands of ventilators. We have thousands under construction right now. We have thousands ready to go in case they need it. There's never been anything like this. I mean, they've done really, the people have done incredibly. We're building hospitals all over the country. We're building hospitals right now at a rate that has never even been contemplated before. They're mobile hospitals, but they're really not mobile. I mean, they're incredible structures. But we're building many hospitals. Louisiana, New Jersey, New York, we just finished a massive hospital complex. And we also have medical centers built in New York. I mean, we're building hospitals at the rate that this country has never done before. And hopefully it's all going to work out.
Sir, it's Mr. President. I just want to make sure we're clear on the planes. Are you looking at just curtailing routes between certain hot spots, or is it broadly?
Well, we're looking at the whole thing because we're getting into a position now where we want to do that. We have to do that, and so we're looking at the whole thing. And we may have some recommendations.
Second question on economics. Just with oil prices are very low. Yeah. The Saudis have increased production. I know that you've spoken about liking low oil prices, but then there's also the industry aspect.
It's like from 1950, these oil prices. And that's when they had big dollars, big, beautiful dollars.
So do you advocate cuts? Do you advocate cuts to production? Do you?
Well, look, we have a great oil industry, and the oil industry is being ravaged. And as you know, Russia, and I spoke to President Putin, we had a great call. Russia, Saudi Arabia, I spoke with the Crown Prince, so we had a great call. But
beautiful, perfect phone call.
I think that they will work it out over the next few days. If you ask me, I think it's too simple not to be able to. They both know what they have to do. So I think I have confidence in both that they'll be able to work it out. But it has ravaged an industry worldwide, not here. I mean, worldwide, the oil industry has been ravaged. So there was a lot of oil production to start off with, and then on top of it, it got hit with the virus, and business went down 35, 40%. So that business is a tough one. And, you know, they have ships all over the sea. I told you yesterday, all over the sea, massive tankers that they're using for storage. They go out and they just sit there. There's no place to go. They have massive amounts. Now, gasoline's going to be 99 cents a gallon and less. You know that. That's already starting. It's popping up. 99 cents.
Cheap gas can't drive anywhere.
So that's
cheap
like giving a
flights can't fly
massive tax cut to people of our country. When we try and get the airlines going, if fuel is costing much less, it helps with getting the airlines, which is always a tough business, always has been a tough business. But with that being said, look, I want to get that industry back where it was. We were doing records in that industry also. We want to get it back to where it was. So I think that Saudi Arabia, Russia, they're negotiating, they're talking, and I think they'll come up with something. I'm going to meet with the oil companies on Friday.
Right,
I'm going to meet with independent oil producers also on Friday or Saturday, maybe Sunday. But we're having a lot of meetings on it. I think I know what to do to solve it. But if they're unable to solve it, then I think I know what to do to solve it.
Can you give us a glimpse
we
of what
won't
you're
mention
doing?
it now, but it's tough. I think I know what to do to solve it. We don't want to lose our great oil companies. You know, we're the #1 producer of oil in the world.
Love it.
And
love oil.
A month ago when you said that, it was great. Today when you say it, it's not so meaningful. But I do believe there's a way that can be solved, or pretty well solved, and I'd rather not do that. I think that Russia and Saudi Arabia at some point are going to make a deal in the not-too-distant future, because it's very bad for Russia. It's very bad for Saudi Arabia. It's very bad. I mean, it's bad for both, so I think they're going to make a deal. You know, the free market is a wonderful thing. It's amazing how it can work, but I think they're going to make a deal, yeah. Yeah, please, with that.
Mr. President, a couple of questions, one for you, one for Mr. Wolf, if possible. Over 5 million immigrants in this country do pay taxes through their IT numbers, yet they will not receive any money in their stimulus package, and no undocumented immigrant will receive any aid from the government during this crisis. How do you suppose they survive during the COVID-19?
Well, you know, you're saying undocumented, meaning they came in illegally. And a lot of people would say we have a lot of citizens right now that won't be working. So,
Well, what happens to agriculture, for example?
thing. It's a very sad question. I must be honest with you, but they came in illegally. And we have a lot of people that are citizens of our country that won't be able to have jobs. Now, I do think once we get rid of the virus, I think we're going to have a boom economy. I think it's going to go up rather quickly, maybe very quickly, and maybe slowly, but it's going to go up, and it'll all come back. And I think it's actually going to come back stronger than what it was because of the stimulus. But it's a really sad situation, and we are working on it. I will tell you, I'm not going to give you a hard and fast answer because I just want to tell you it's something I think about, and it's something we're working on. Please.
Mr. Wolf?
Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. Question for Dr. Fauci. Looking beyond when we're on the other side of this curve, are we looking at living with some sort of social distancing guidelines essentially until there's treatment or a vaccine? For example, people looking forward to the summer talk about going to baseball games, going to concerts. We have political conventions over the summer. Are things like that possible or safe without a vaccine or a treatment in place?
Yeah, I think if we get to the part of the curve that Dr. Birx showed yesterday, when it goes down to essentially no new cases, no deaths at a period of time, I think it makes sense that you're going to have to relax social distancing. The one thing we hopefully would have in place, and I believe we will have in place, is a much more robust system to be able to identify someone who's infected, isolate them, and then do contact tracing. Because if you have a really good program of containment that prevents you from ever having to get into mitigation, we're in mitigation right now. That's what the social and physical distancing is. The ultimate solution to a virus that might keep coming back would be a vaccine. In fact, I was on the weekly conference call with the WHO-sponsored group of all the health leaders in the world who are dealing with this. And we all came to the agreement that we may have cycling with another season. We'll be much better prepared. We likely will have interventions. But the ultimate game changer in this will be a vaccine, the same way a vaccine for other diseases that were scourges in the past that now we don't even worry about.
And Tony, how are they doing with the vaccines, Tony?
I mean, the vaccine is, as I said, it's on target. We're still in phase 1. There were 3 doses that we had to test. We've been through the first 2 doses. We're on the highest dose now. When we get that data, it'll take a few months to get the data to feel confident to go to the phase 2. And then a few months from now, we'll be in phase 2. And I think we're right on target for the year,
For a year to
a
18
year
months.
and a half.
And if you don't mind me asking, you and Dr. Birx, have either of you received threats of any kind, or have you been given a security detail, given that you've been out here every day on camera speaking?
Well, I mean, anything that has to do with security detail, I'd have to have you refer that question to the Inspector General of HHS rather than my answer that.
Can I follow up on testing?
He doesn't
Dr.
need
Fauci?
security. Everybody loves him.
Can I follow up on testing?
Besides that,
Dr.
they'd be in
Fauci?
big trouble if they ever attacked. You know, he was a great basketball player. Did anybody know that? He was a little on the short side for the NBA, but he was talented. He won a game. I read the story. He won a game that was unwinnable against a great team. And his whole team said, we can't beat this team. And he went in and they won the game, right? That was
There you
a
go.
couple of years ago. But a few years ago. The head never changes. The attitude never changes.
Right. He's a winner.
Can I ask Dr. Fauci?
Yes,
because
please.
I know he loves being up behind the podium.
He
so
does.
much. Like pulling teeth, like going to the dentist. I don't want to hit you with everything that's coming along, but a lot of people who are watching television today heard from a researcher named Dr. Jacob Granville, who's come up with a potential antibody therapy that he has given to USAMRIID. Just wanting to know if you know anything about this, what you might be able to tell people at home about it who've seen it.
You know, John, I don't know specifically this individual, what they're doing, but I can tell you there's a lot of activity that is centered around a passive transfer of antibodies in the form of convalescent plasma.
Or
One,
plasma.
The number is to get immune globulin that you precipitate out of the plasma, and another is monoclonal antibody. It's based on the same principle of if you have a protective antibody, passive transfer of that could provide not only protection prophylactically, but also treatment. This is an old concept. In fact, immunology was born decades and decades and decades ago with the concept of giving passive transfer of serum to an individual to protect them from an infection. So I wouldn't be surprised if he and a number of other people are pursuing this. It's the right thing to do.
Can I follow up on antibody testing, please, Dr. Fauci? At what point can we as a country expect there to be a widespread antibody testing
Beautiful
so we know
question.
exactly what we're dealing
Excellent
with here,
question.
as well as other questions such as,
I'm
when
looking
can
to get
people
it.
who are deemed to be healthy donate blood, for example?
Okay, so when you talk about antibody testing, there are a couple of things that you want to do. You want to find out if someone has been infected and whether or not they're going to ultimately wind up being protected. Antibody testing right now is not the first thing on our priority. It's something that we need to do is testing to see if someone is infected. It is very important ultimately to be able to get a feel for what the penetrance of the infection was in society for a number of reasons. You get a better feel of what the impact has been, but also you get a better feel of what the herd immunity would be.
Right.
So I can foresee in the future that when we get the facility, which we'll have for sure, I mean, ultimately you can get a test that could do this reasonably easy, and do the kind of what we call serosurveillance study. This is very analogous that Dr. Birx and I were talking about that a lot. And that is back in the day when she and I were both doing the HIV/AIDS issues back when we first discovered the virus in '83 and we had an antibody test in 1985. We found out by serial surveillance, representative in different populations, that we were dealing with the tip of the iceberg when we saw individuals who were the ones who actually got infected.
Notice that like this is the most interesting and relevant stuff, and both Pence and Trump seem zoned out and like they can't wait to get past it.
I foresee that we'll have that same sort of information, which will be important information. But right now, that's not our immediate problem.
Not your priority, but can you give a sense of whether it will happen this year?
Let me just follow up with that because I think, as I discussed before, we had I just want to thank all the epidemiologists and scientists out there who worked with us over the last 4 weeks on models. They really, many came forward and really supported us. Right now, we're in talks with a whole series of universities. We have the most brilliant scientists in the world in our universities in state after state. Some of them public health universities, some of them basic science. All of them have received NIH grants for HIV or other development of assays in the past. I've talked to a lot of them over the last few days to really ask them to develop these simple ELISA tests that could be used rapidly in their healthcare centers. Because immediately, it's easy to do. We've all developed ELISAs. So in a day or two after development, they could screen their entire hospital. I think that would be very reassuring to the healthcare workers who have been on the front line. We worry about them every day. And so I've really called on every university and every state to develop ELISAs. You can buy the antigens and the controls online and really work to test entire healthcare communities in your states and support them that way. At the same time, we worked in sub-Saharan Africa on what we call dried blood spots. So we're looking at, could you use that in a community while we work on the point of care test, where you just dot blood onto this paper, and then that can go into the lab and be analyzed. That would allow us to look in nursing homes and other long-term care facilities immediately. And then finally, we've reached out to the developers of the rapid test, the ones who developed it for malaria, the ones that developed them for HIV. It's exactly the same concept and process to ask them to rapidly develop these tests, because I think we owe it to the frontline healthcare providers, not only to provide them RNA tests, but many of them have been on the front line now for 4 weeks, may have become exposed. We now know there's asymptomatic. And I think really being able to tell them the peace of mind that would come from knowing you already were infected, you have the antibody, you're safe from reinfection 99.9% of the time. And so this, I think, would be very reassuring to our frontline healthcare workers. And our universities can do that by Friday. So I'm putting that challenge out to them to really work on that and do that. That's what we did in the early days. We had ELISAs up and running within days of having the antigen. And so this is what's really possible. So we're not waiting, we're asking for help now.
Important.
Potentially, this could happen soon, even within this month, if people
It could
take up
happen
that
soon,
challenge.
within this month, if the universities help us,
That's huge.
absolutely.
Dr. Burke,
Mr. President, on Florida, Governor DeSantis says that he spoke with you before issuing his
He
stay-at-home
did,
order.
spoke to me this morning.
He has some loopholes in that for.
That I don't know, he
well,
spoke to
for-
me this morning, he
For
knows what he's
religious
doing.
events, for example,
Very good
large
governor.
religious groups can meet together. Now, that doesn't really
Who can,
agree.
who can?
Religious groups,
I
like
didn't
churches
speak to
can
him
meet.
about it, but he did speak to me this morning, we talked about it, please.
Full mitigation, sir. Does that go against your model? Because that's not full
I
mitigation.
don't know, I'd have to look at what he did.
Back to the healthcare workers on the front lines, following up with Dr. Birx as well. Hazard pay. You have said you have wanted that for the healthcare workers on the front lines. I know Secretary Mnuchin has mentioned something about that possibly in
I like
the
it.
fourth level of the stimulus
I
package.
like it.
But can you make it happen now? Do we have to wait for a fourth stimulus?
Well, I think it's something we're discussing in terms of bonus or bonus pay. It doesn't have to be called hazard pay, it could be called, hey, look, I watch those people go into hospitals that I know. I talked about one of them, right? But I watch them walk into those hospitals, and they walk in men, women, young, middle-aged, not so many older ones. And I watch them, they're almost like, and I think I take the word almost out, they're like warriors. They're going in. People are cheering. Where there's a building across the street, the people are screaming, they're clapping, they're like heroes.
The Empire State
No,
Building.
no, I
lit
will
up the
tell you,
top-
I think it's incredible. They're like warriors. They're like soldiers. And we're gonna be doing something for them. So whether it's bonus, because we're hopefully going to be over this relatively quickly.
Yeah, it
It's
shouldn't be
gonna
more than like
vicious
12 months.
for a period of time. But hopefully we're going to be over this. You have a lot of questions today. Look at you.
There's
You
a
know
lot-
this young lady behind you?
Never met her before in my life.
We're practicing social
That's
distancing.
good. That's a good
It makes our
idea.
marriage strong.
It's good for a marriage, right?
There are a lot of people who are worried about getting sick, and do they end up in a hospital? People who are uninsured, and will they be crushed by medical bills? You were considering last month already in March, reopening the healthcare.gov exchanges. There has been a determination not to do that. Could you tell us what the rationale was behind that
Okay, you
decision,
might-
and what
Yeah.
would you have as an alternative?
Okay, they took that up under the task force, and maybe, Mike, you want to say a few words about that?
Mike, come up here and trash
Well,
Obamacare.
Thank you, Mr. President. And what I can tell you is that the President has made a priority from the outset of our task force work, make sure every American knows that they can have a coronavirus and they don't have to worry about the cost. And we were very
They can
inspired
have a coronavirus.
because of the President's engagement with the leading health insurance companies in the country that now, so far, two of the top health insurance companies in America have announced that they're not only willing to waive copays on testing, and now testing is fully covered because of the bill the President signed for every American, but also that these two insurance companies have waived copays on all coronavirus treatment. And I can assure you that as Congress and the President and the administration begin to discuss the next piece of legislation, we're going to make sure that Americans have those costs compensated and covered. Our priority right now is ensuring that every American takes the 30 days to slow the spread to heart. The best thing we can do for one another, for our family's health, for the most vulnerable among us, is practice those mitigation strategies that the President outlined yesterday for the next 30 days. We're dealing with testing to make sure that every American can have a test that needs one. We're dealing with supplies, and we're making great progress in building personal protective equipment and ensuring that ventilators are available, particularly for the communities most impacted. But the American people can be confident that as we move into this, we're going to make sure that our healthcare workers are properly compensated.
Notice
for
it's not an answer. The question was, why didn't you reopen the healthcare.gov exchanges?
that the financial burden on those who end up contracting the coronavirus and dealing with its most serious symptoms
also can deal with those issues and deal with those costs.
Understood, Mr. Vice President, but there will be people who don't have insurance who get sick before any of these mitigation efforts are put into place. And without opening the healthcare exchanges, where can they find insurance? People who aren't insured by these companies that are covering the cost of the copay, where can people go now to get health insurance if they get sick, before they get sick?
Well, all across America, we have Medicaid for
That's if you're
underprivileged
poor.
Americans. And at the President's direction, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services has given unprecedented waivers for states to expand coverage for coronavirus testing and treatment. We've also extended waivers for Medicare administration to make sure that people have access to that coverage.
Not
But
gonna
we're going to
answer
continue
it.
to bring opportunities to the President. The traditional systems of Medicaid in particular for the uninsured in America.
Could you expand that to cover middle class people?
Well, I think what we're seeing health insurance companies do today, John, is
Dangerous
really-
question, because if the answer is yes, it means Medicare for all is viable.
Sorry
One
to
of the
belabor
things
a
that's
point, but that's for
characterized
people
the
who-
President's approach
that's for
here.
people who already have insurance.
Well, one of the things that has animated and characterized the President's approach is the way he's engaged American businesses to step up and do their part. And as the President said many times,
Gaslight.
we're inspired by the spirit of American businesses. I was at a distribution center for Walmart today.
Question was people without insurance. Answer is distribution center for Walmart.
Of people, these workers are coming to work, the truck drivers are coming to work, farmers are working in the field.
Farmers.
Grocery stores made a commitment to the President a month ago that no grocery store in America would close down. The food supply is strong. We're getting food on the table of every American. But it's because the President went to these leaders and said, we need you to step up and do your part. We engaged health insurance executives early on in this process to waive copays on coronavirus testing. And because of the engagement, and frankly, because of that patriotic and compassionate spirit that's being reflected, we've already seen two of the largest insurance companies in the country announce that they're going to be providing full coverage, free of charge, for coronavirus treatment.
This guy wouldn't answer if he had a gun to his head.
As the President does too, that we'll see more of that for people that have insurance. We'll continue to provide flexibility for Medicaid for people that don't have insurance. And we'll make sure that Medicare has the flexibility to meet this moment. For seniors, when we remember that seniors with underlying health conditions are the most vulnerable to serious outcomes from the coronavirus, but we'll get through this using the full weight of the federal government and the full strength of the American economy.
I think it's a very fair question, though, and it's something we're really going to look at because it doesn't seem fair. If you have it, you have a big advantage, and at a certain income level, you do. I think it's one of the greatest answers I've ever heard. Because Mike was able to speak for 5 minutes and not
Without
even
saying a
answer
word.
question. No, I said that's what you call a great professional.
Hey, Trump's right.
Let me just tell you, you really are. It's really a fair question, and it's something we're looking at.
Well, I think
Trump called out Pence for not answering the question.
I always endeavored to ask fair questions, but this is a huge worry
Yeah, I know.
for people in this country who are in that donut hole. They
Well,
don't
okay.
have commercial insurance. They don't qualify for Medicaid. What do
There
they
is a certain
do?
group, and it's a pretty big group. We're looking at it.
I mean, we spent the entire 2000 election talking about the donut hole, and it's still there.
We are. I haven't been up there yet, though. You know, the other people have been talking about it.
No, I mean,
And they haven't
2000
spoken it.
This was 20 years ago we were talking about it.
But they're
Gore
talking
v.
about it.
Bush,
They're
it was
talking
all
about it.
the donut hole.
I know, but they're talking about it in the 2020 election.
Wow.
Too, and nobody's gotten to it.
I
Nobody.
think Pence is ripshit with Trump for calling him out like that. I really do.
We're going to get to it. I don't think the other group will get to it. They haven't even spoken about it, and it's a big group of people.
Are you committing that there's
No, I'm not
something you're
committing,
gonna
but it's
do- or
something
for
we're
the
going to look at.
uninsured?
I can't
For-
commit. I have to get approval from it. I have a thing called Congress, but it's something we're going to look at, and we have been looking at it.
In the, you mentioned in this congressional bill, the sort of phase 4, you would like to see something.
If there is a
more
phase
there.
4, but we're certainly looking at certain things. We want to help restaurants, entertainment. We want to help because it's jobs, not that restaurants, it's jobs, tremendous amounts of jobs. So we're looking at that. We're looking at infrastructure. I mean, we think of it. We will have spent $8 trillion, and you know, it's way back. We're way pulled back, but we will have spent $8 trillion in the Middle East, and yet our roads are in bad shape. Our bridges, our
Look at
tunnels.
Pence's furious smirk.
and we're going to be the talk of the world again soon. But we want $2 trillion. We will have spent in the Middle East, and all we got out of it was death and cost. But all we got out of it was death. Millions of people. You have to look at the other side too. Millions and millions of people killed. Our great soldiers.
What?
Thousands killed. So many wounded, hurt. And yet when we want to go and fix a road someplace, we want to do what we want to do in our country. No, it's time that we spend money on our country. That's what we're going to do. It's time that we start spending on our roads and our bridges and our schools and all of the things that we're supposed to be spending on. And people are finally getting used to it. And you could look at all of what we've done in the Middle East, way back in so many different places, way back in other countries too, by the way. And I've gone to other countries that are very rich. I said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to reimburse us for our costs. They don't even know what I'm talking about. It takes them 20 minutes to figure it out because nobody's ever asked them to do that. And they're doing it. They're doing it. And they have no choice. They have to do it.
These are lies,
So,
obviously.
It's time that we start spending on the USA. Okay, please.
Mr. President, this is a question for the Vice President. On March 9th, you said 1 million tests had been delivered and another 4 million would be delivered by the end of the week.
Good question.
That clearly did not happen. What happened with those projections? What went wrong?
Well, I think the test kits were delivered, according to HHS, but the difference is between receiving a test and the ability to rapidly produce a result of that test. And frankly, because of the public-private partnership that the President initiated now more than a month ago,
right,
with our massive commercial laboratories across the country, our team was reported today that we're now doing more than 100,000 tests a day. More than 1.2 million tests have been performed.
Notice these numbers are far short of the projections they've been feeding us for 3 weeks.
States have been so successful with the community-based and drive-through testing that we're working to transition over completely all of the federal work on drive-through testing and have the states completely manage that process.
So you're saying 4 million tests were delivered by the end of that week?
HHS was very busy from early in the year delivering test kits around the country. But the difference was, as the President said many times, we had an antiquated system
There it
where a
is.
state laboratory or CDC only had the capacity to process 40 to 60 tests a day. Now with the commercial labs, literally those labs are processing tens of thousands of tests every day. And so while we're continuing to distribute test kits around the country, now because of the partnership with companies like Roche and Quest and LabCorp, the American people are seeing the results of those tests more rapidly than at any point in the past. And
None
we
of these
expect
are
that
answers.
will continue to expand. But the exciting news this weekend
Exciting.
about Abbott Laboratories having a 15-minute test approved is going to put us in a position we believe down the road to get to where Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx want us to be for many of the states that don't yet have significant outbreak. There's some 19 states where we don't have significant outbreak, but we want to be doing the kind of surveillance testing in those states that will allow us to, early on to identify people with the coronavirus, do what the experts call contact tracing, and ensure that in that state we don't have an outbreak of the coronavirus. So,
In many countries all over the world want to know whether or not they can use, especially our new test that was just developed by Abbott, which is almost instantaneous, which is going to be great. And remember this, we inherited
Antiquated.
bad tests. We really inherited bad tests. These are horrible tests. And it was broken. It was all broken. And we fixed it. And we're doing millions of tests. Sometimes we send out a test and it's not used. In many cases, it wasn't used. But we've worked with the states, and the testing has been pretty amazing, especially considering the fact that we inherited a very broken system. Jeff?
Mr. President, just to follow up on something you said before, are you considering a temporary ban on all domestic flights?
I am looking at hotspots. I am looking where flights are going into hotspots. Some of those flights I didn't like from the beginning, but closing up every single flight on every single airline, that's a very very, very rough decision. But we are thinking about hot spots where you go from spot to spot, both hot. And we'll let you know fairly soon.
And what about rail travel?
A similar thing. We have trains going back and forth, and people don't think of trains, but we do a lot of transportation business. It's a very big decision to do that. And we're pretty late in the process from the standpoint that this is starting. You're going to start seeing, I think, over the next couple of weeks, you're going to start to see us hit a top and start coming down. So we'll make those decisions. Those are very, very big decisions from the standpoint of the future of our country, in a way, in the future of our country. We have to get our country back. We have to start moving again. We have to start working again. They're doing tests on airlines, very strong tests for getting on, getting off. They're doing tests on trains, getting on, getting off. But when you start closing up entire transportation systems and then opening them up, that's a very tough thing to do.
There continues to be a lot of public confusion about the use of masks. What is the
The
White
reuse. I love the sterilization of the masks.
She's not asking about that.
Ohio company, you can
She's asking about just everybody using a mask in public. God.
And you can sterilize that mask for up to 20 times.
Not the
Think of
question,
that, up to
dude.
20 times. We're throwing them out. And they're very expensive masks. They're throwing them out. And I kept saying, one of the first questions I asked to Dr. Fauci, I said, why aren't they sterilized or cleaning the mask? Because I didn't, was it my thing exactly when we first heard about this?
Questions
Nobody
about
else knew
masks
it
in
either.
public. Didn't even let her ask
And now
it.
we have a company, and I guess a number of companies, one in Ohio, a great one, that makes equipment where you can sterilize a mask up to 20 times, which is fantastic.
What
Okay.
about you or me? What about the public? Should we be wearing masks
Right.
out? We've heard lots of different recommendations.
I don't believe, look, there's a big thing, a lot of people don't like it. Some people don't like it because you're taking it away from the medical professionals. Some people don't like it for other reasons. I don't see where it hurts, and it doesn't have to be a mask. It can be a scarf. Scarf is highly recommended by the professionals. I don't see where it hurts. I think, frankly, if people wanted to do it, we don't want to do anything that's going to take masks. You're talking about a tremendous amount of masks when you do that. We don't want to take them away from our medical professionals, but I certainly don't see it hurting. But what I do see people doing now is using scarves. And I think in a certain way, depending on the fabric, I think in a certain way a scarf is better. It's actually better.
It's not better.
Yeah, please, you didn't get it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about social distancing and how it applies to religious organizations.
Yeah.
Some churches, as you know, have continued to hold services, even though you have advised people that they need to practice social distancing. There was a pastor of a mega church in Florida over the weekend who held services that were attended by several hundred people. So my question to you is, should pastors be holding services in the middle of this pandemic? And even if they do, should Americans be going to
Well,
church?
my biggest disappointment is that churches can't meet in a time of need.
Right.
This is really a great time for churches to be together, for people to get together on a
Sure.
Sunday or whenever, any day.
Pence
and
loves
meet.
that.
And yet, if you do that, if you do it close, you're really giving this invisible enemy a very big advantage.
Yeah.
So it's the biggest. I think the single biggest disappointment is you can. One of the reasons
That's what
I
he's
said,
most
wouldn't it be great
disappointed in,
just to pick a date as I called it aspirational. An aspirational date would be Easter. And I will tell you, it's very, very disappointing. But again, you get too close, and if somebody's sick, you're going to probably catch it. So you have to be very careful.
Should they cancel
Yeah, just real quickly, Joe Biden's campaign came out with a statement today saying that
Sleepy.
Biden would be.
Did he
open.
write the statement, or did some PR person write
As
it?
far as I know, the campaign was wide awake, sir, and they sent out a statement that
For
Joe
change.
Biden would be open to having a phone call with you to talk about the coronavirus
That's
pandemic.
okay, sure.
Would you take his call? Would
Oh,
you?
absolutely. I'd
You
love
would talk to him
I'd
about
love
it.
to speak to him, sure. He should be
Work
able
together.
to. I always found him to be a nice guy. I don't know him very well, frankly.
There
but
you go.
I think he's probably a nice guy. No, if
Get
you'd
on
like
the
to
phone.
call, I'd absolutely take his call.
Wow.
You could tell him. All right?
But you have talked about the failings of the Obama administration in leaving you with empty shelves and no plans.
Well,
They have
and
said
no
you got-
ammunition,
They have
and
said you
maybe
got
no
rid of the
ammunition.
pandemic office in the National Security Council.
We didn't do that. That turned out to be a false story. Now you're starting to go. What, are you working for
pointing out-
CNN?
I'm pointing out what they have said and what you have
Good
said.
you were
That's
with
all.
Fox. But Fox isn't so easy either. Don't kid yourself.
President,
Hey, look, John, let me tell you
Fox
something.
or CNN.
You know that's a
This is a
false
state-
story. What you just said is a false story. This doctor knows it better than anybody. No, but you shouldn't be repeating a story that you know is false. All right, who's next?
False.
Please, go ahead. In the back, you didn't get it.
Talk about Iran, and Iran is struggling with the virus.
It's very
and
sad what's happening in
a
Iran.
broken economy. Under which conditions would you consider suspending, saying, U.S. sanctions?
Well, look, we have to talk to them. I think we could work out a deal with Iran very quickly. All they have to do is call. I just think that, you know, they're proud people, and the leadership is proud. They're proud, like all of us. We're proud. You people are proud. They're having a hard time picking up the phone, or they're having a hard time setting up the meeting,
Right.
but they could fix their country pretty easily. And we don't want hostility, but if they are hostile to us, they're going to regret it like they've never regretted anything before, as per today's statement. But all they have to do is call or have somebody call. You know, there are channels where we can deal very easily.
Right.
Again, I think that John Kerry did a tremendous disservice. I think he violated the Logan Act 100%. That's what I think. And I think it made it tough for them because they were dealing with him for years. It was a terrible deal. All of that money, $150 billion plus cash, plane loads of cash for a deal that was no good and was short term. Essentially, it was a short term deal. Who makes a deal for that kind of money? And $1.8 billion in cash. I don't even know what that would look like. That would be, this room would have to be filled up 5 times with $100 bills, okay? Who makes a deal like this? And then on top of it, the deal's no good. All right, how about 1 or 2 more?
Mr. President, Seattle police have reported a surge in calls about domestic violence. A number of groups have raised concerns.
Mexican violence?
Domestic
Domestic.
violence. A number of groups have raised concerns. The longer people are stuck at home, the more domestic violence cases there are going to be. Do you share those concerns, and what is being done
Well,
to
it
make
could
sure?
be. It's another cost of not getting our country working. I mean, people are. Now, some people are getting along great. I've also had the exact opposite question. Families are coming together.
Right.
They're actually coming together. They haven't talked for a long time, and now all of a sudden they're talking again. They're loving each other. So I've heard that too. But I also have heard domestic violence,
Trump's reportedly started talking to Tiffany again.
and drug use because of, in this case, they'd lose their jobs. They had a great job. They had a great life. They have a great family. All of a sudden, a husband's told that he doesn't have a job anymore and he's got no money.
The husband's told.
And that brings drugs into it. That brings suicide into it. It's a terrible thing. We have to get our country going again. We did the right thing. We had no choice. We did the right thing. Other countries tried to use the herd or the herd mentality. It's just, something that doesn't work. If you look at, just to say, I heard Sweden gave it a shot and they saw things that were really frightening and they went immediately to shutting down the country.
They went kablooey.
We did the right thing and we did it early. And we stopped other people from coming into our country early. But no, that's a cost. I've been talking about that. People say, what are you talking about? But you'll have that. You'll have domestic violence. You'll have violence. You'll have suicide. You'll have drug addiction. A lot of people are going to be lost. We want to get this open as soon as we can. I'll be the happiest person. So will you, everyone in this room. Happy when we get the word that this is the time and we have our common sense and they'll give me a decision or they'll be making certain statements and I think I'll know how to interpret those statements very well. I'll be with Mike. I'll be with the task force. I'll be with a lot of very talented people, including the 2 people on stage with us. But I look forward. That'll be a great day. That'll be a great day. All right. How about one more, please?
Can I ask a question of Mr. Wolf? Can I ask a question for
Sure.
Mr. Wolf?
Check.
What is the current contingency plan in ICE detention centers where cases of COVID-19 are already popping up? Some people have been released. Is there a contingency plan, and would you release the most vulnerable people like children and the elder?
Well, ICE looks at, on a case-by-case basis, even well before COVID,
on looking at certain detention facilities and determining on a case-by-case basis if they do need to release individuals. And when we do that, we often put them on alternatives to detention as well. In the case of COVID, we're looking at vulnerable populations, and again, ICE is doing that in conjunction with CDC and other medical professionals. And in some cases, we do need to do that for the health and safety and the well-being of those detainees. But again, that's a case-by-case basis. We're not going to make any blanket statement that we're going to release individuals of whole groups at a time. So it's really important, and I've said it twice now, it's really a case-by-case basis, determining the health of that particular population or detainee, the facility they're in. Different facilities have different capabilities, whether it's an ICE-owned facility or it's a contractor-owned facility. And so we're certainly doing that. We're doing that today. We've been doing that for the past several weeks.
That's Chad.
Been released.
While you're up, could you talk about how tight that southern border is right now?
Absolutely. We continue to build miles of the wall every day. We're up to over 150, I believe. We're continuing to build new miles of wall. And a lot of folks ask about replacement wall or new miles. And it's a new capability on our southwest border that we haven't had before. And so whether you talk to the agents, the Border Patrol agents, they like that capability, they like that impedance and denial that it provides them. And it provides the ability for those agents to focus elsewhere on parts of the border that are very difficult to patrol, so we can use our resources in a different way. And so we see a lot of benefits from the border wall system. And again, that includes not only the physical infrastructure, but the cameras, the roads, the lightings, the fiber optic cables. And we're looking forward, and we're still well on our track, well on our mark to meet 450 miles by the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
What actions are you taking
Mr.
inside?
Wolf, can I get one more question from you while you're here? There's been concern among farmers about being able to get enough migrant labor to keep the food supply moving as we go into the harvest season. What are you doing to address that?
Well, at the direction of the Vice President and the task force, we are looking at a number of different options with the H-2A workers that you mentioned on how do we either extend the validity of their visa, or looking at a couple of different options. Nothing to announce here today, but again, at the direction of the President and the Vice President, we're looking at a variety of different options that I think we will have soon, and it'll be very beneficial.
What about waiving
But I
visa
am glad
restrictions
you
for
asked that
food?
question, because we want the farmers, they've had this for years. We want the farmers to be able to get the people that have been working those farms for years, or we're not going to have farms. So they're going to come in, and they're going to be given a certain pass, and we're going to check them very, very closely, especially over the next month. Because remember, after a month or so, I think once this passes, we're not going to have to be hopefully worried too much about the virus. But we want them to come in. We're not closing the border so that we can't get any of those people to come in. They've been there for years and years, and I've given the commitment to the farmers they're going to continue to come, or we're not going to have any farmers. Okay? Yeah, one more question. Who are you with, by the way?
I'm with Voice of America. So
Why?
what about waiving visa restrictions
Amazing.
on immigrant
Okay,
doctors?
who else, please?
In less than 24 hours, sir, 2 ships will arrive at Port Everglades with people who are infected.
We're looking at the 2 ships, yeah.
Should
We
they
have,
be let
Canada notified, a lot of Canadians, a lot of British on the ship, and they're coming to take the people that are on the ship back to their homeland. Canada's coming, UK is coming, and we have a lot of, and we have Americans. We have some people that are quite sick, and we're taking care of that. I'm speaking with the governor about that a lot, and it's a tough situation. It's a tough situation. You know, you can understand. You have people that are sick on those ships, and states don't want to take. They have enough problems right now. They don't want to take them, but we have to, from a humane standpoint. We don't have a choice. It's like, I don't want to do that, but we have to. People are dying.
So they will be let into the country.
We're going to do something. We're going to do something. At a minimum, we're sending medical teams on board the ships. We're taking the Canadians off and giving them to Canadian authorities. They're going to bring them back home.
Separate Canadians.
The same thing with the UK. But we have to help the people. They're in big trouble, no matter where they're from. Happen to be Americans, largely Americans. But whether they were or not, I mean, they're dying. So we have to do something. And the governor knows that too.
Before being sent on?
Well, we're sending a lot of them home. Yeah, we're sending a lot of them home to their countries. But we'll be doing something, and we'll be announcing it. You'll see what we're doing. But we're also putting medical staff onto the ships so that we can We have to take care of the people.
Mr. President.
At the risk of getting chewed out again?
No, you won't.
Mr. President, the IRS is requiring people who don't normally file income tax to file a simple income tax return in order to get their $1,200 check. Is that the way it's going to be, or is there something you can do to?
I had heard that. Now I don't know. Do you know that answer, Mike?
IRS issued some guidance.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
It's
I mean,
not in the
we'll
bill,
get.
but it's
We can get
IRS.
back. Yeah, it's a process that they're working on. We'll get back to you as soon as we find out. All right, one more, please.
Mr. President, you spoke with President Bolsonaro of Brazil today.
I did.
and
I spoke to him.
According to his Twitter.
He's great. He's a great guy, and he's doing a
Lovely
wonderful
man.
job.
Still
From
meeting
Brazil.
with his
Spoke to him this
supporters,
morning.
talking to them. So what
And
is your
just a
assessment?
very complimentary call. He's working very hard. He's got a problem with the virus, got a big problem, and we talked about it today at length. We had a call this morning, and Brazil is shut down, as you know. They weren't going to shut it down, but they had to. So Brazil is shut down. The world is shut down.
Right.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. The entire world is shut down. You go from having the most powerful economy in the world and from other countries that are doing well to being everything is shut down. It's very sad, but we're going to get it going, and we're going to be stronger than ever. I really believe that. We're going to be stronger. We're going to have a big bounce, a very big bounce when this is gone.
Dead cat bounce.
And I just want to thank the American people. I want to thank these great professionals, and I want to thank the media, because really, for the most part, the media has been very fair. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So there it is, the daily propaganda with 2 minutes of Dr. Fauci and 15 seconds of Dr. Deborah Birx. We did learn some things, although they are mostly not particularly good. Thanks to everybody who's been joining me. I'll hang around for a little bit just while we get a look at Kenneth Copeland's face here and answer some questions. I am being notified that we have scaled resources at joinpacman.com. The website crashed. The entire thing collapsed like a house of cards because so many people tried to get memberships. I'm told the website is running very, very strongly right now. We've looked at it beautifully. We've run some extraordinarily beautiful HTML and caching, or cache, as Trump likes to say. And this would be a great opportunity to grab those memberships for sure. Thanks to Chris Kiefel, who says, thanks, Danny. Thanks, Danny. Just moved back to Minnesota. Okay. Danny says, I see Minnesota opened 30-day special period for Emin Shore. Jane Woman Power says, thanks for helping us deal with the nausea and insanity of Trump, David. Thanks to Brian Holiday for saying Trump just made his own VP look like an idiot. Yeah, it was Pence did not seem pleased when Trump said, wow, he just didn't answer the question 5 minutes. I see people saying we've never seen memberships like these before. Yeah, we never have seen 389 memberships canceled in 1 month before, which we saw in March. And I get why it's happening. It's because of the virus. But fortunately, we've got some folks signing up. Let me say thank you to Jen Concepcion, who is new member number 16 today. Barbara Ellis is number 17. Amy Guerra is number 18. Stephen Ron is number 19. Paul Burbridge is new member number 20. Tammy Vichik is new member number 21. Don't want to forget, of course, about Kathleen Cushing, who's new member number 22 today. M.E. Zper, I don't know if that's some kind of abbreviation, is new member number, not 223, 23. Also, thanks to Colin Webb, who's new member number 24 today. Daniel Legrand is new member number 25. And I can't forget about Matthew Fehrenbach. Matthew Fehrenbach is new member number 26. Lenz D. Eckers is new member number 27. And I also want to say thanks to, did I miss somebody there? Nick Monitor. Hello. Nick Monitor is new member number 28. Alicia Babineau is number 29. Michael Chacho, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, geez, number 30. Kimberly Roberts Kruger is number 31 today. Brian Somerville, love Somerville, is number 32. Also thanks to Oz Ramsey, who is new member number 33. Clinton Dean is number 34. Someone who goes by the name Triple F Triple R, not sure if that's a legal name, is new member number 35 today. Also, thanks to Tim Thomas. Tim Thomas is new member number 36. And Jake Semier is new member number 37. I hope I got to everybody there. Also, the great Donna Chen is new member number 38. Very much appreciate that. We will be back tomorrow, I hope, with a better functioning website than we had today. See everybody tomorrow for the regular show, and then probably back here at 5 p.m., pending Donald Trump's briefing schedule.